disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
We just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. Yeah, because you got nothing. You got nothing.
I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Well. Hey, welcome everybody to the Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. This is a good friend, Mr. BDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. In this episode, we got a fantastic one for you, as always. Well, perhaps more particularly so because we had a lot of fuzz last evening. In the evening and at night, of course, some major fights occurring, some major action. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the narratives that are floating around there. I got a couple of complaints. I usually refrain from complaining, but geez, Luis, even, look at me, it's got me stuttering a little bit here. Be that as it may, before we get down to the fun, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. Don't forget, if you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you're certainly welcome to do so with the Super Chat feature. Of course, it's always better if you join the membership program. That way you get more bang for your buck. The most important thing is you continue to like, subscribe, and spread that BDA gospel, all right, fellas? There's a lot of uninitiated out there, and they need to be corrected. Don't forget you can check us out on iTunes, Spotify, and Spreaker at your leisure. All right, speaking of the loyal followers of the True Path of the Crimson Cross, let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about Sam Rando, Jesus M, King Bucho in the house as well, Super Sardonic, JumpTube, Timothy Figueroa in the house as well. The Quags is in there, shout out to the Quags. Warped Speed, Way Weary, Dark Hay Doe in the house, Alejandro Solis, Electorazo, Alfredo Contreras, Eric Roses, Mike Morris, the Grim Reaper in the house as well, Eddie Kane, shout out to Eddie Kane, Not, that's K-Not, Team Batman Boxing, Earl Stevens in the house as well. Many more people to come, I'm sure, fellas. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, really helps us out. Well, we had what was expected to be a competitive fight by most people, and what was expected to be a shootout. It was a shootout, but it was a one-sided shootout. And let me tell you something, fellas. I'm going to get to that later. I want to talk about what people are saying about the fight and how it was a Mexican war and this and that. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, it was a one-sided beating, and we'll get to that. For those of you that are unaware, Emanuel Navarrete ended up beating Oscar Valdez by unanimous decision. Some people complain about the scorecards, two wide scorecards, 118, 110, and 119, 109. We will be talking about that. I want to address that. But first, let me invite a couple of people over here so we can start cooking with a little hot grease, as they say. Hold on a second. All right. Hopefully this works out here. All right. Yes, so shout out to everybody in the house. Shout out to Dark Hado, Next Gen Combat Sports TV, the Chitlin distributor in there as well. Shout out to him. All right. I'm sharing the screen with you guys. I see we got King Bucho, we got Jimmy, aka the Jimmy Reno. All right, fellas. before we get, we got Gonzalo dropping in as well. Before we start with your thoughts on the fight and all that, and well, maybe you can segue off the answer. What did you think of the scorecards? I read that some people were complaining about some of the scorecards that they were too wide. What did you guys think?
Can you give us the scorecards again? One was 118, I think.
It was 118, 110. Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Oh, I know. I just think one was 119, wasn't it? I think that was the one I really was a little.
Let me read them. Let me read them. 116, 112, 118, 110, 119, 109.
I mean, that's the only one. Yeah, it's the only one I'd take issue with, even a little bit. But you know what I mean. But I wouldn't fucking like call it a robbery or like a ridiculous thing. I mean, you could easily say he won 10 of those rounds. But let you guys speak. What do you think?
It was one-sided. I don't know. People are calling it a war. I mean, there were moments in the fight where it was exciting, I would say, but I don't know. When you label this a war, it makes it sound like it was competitive. Not competitive. That's the word. It was. They were equally matched, and they weren't equally matched. This wasn't Barrera Morales, where the three fights were, you could even say, controversial. This wasn't controversial at all. This was a domination. And I think when you use those words, the war and whatever, you take away from Navarrete's win. He put on a better performance than Shakur Stevenson. He actually put on a beating on Valdez. So, yeah, it was a domination. That's what it was. There's no need for a rematch. I don't know why Osuna there after the fight, he's asking Navarrete or Valdez if they want to do it again. Like, there's no point.
They're desperate to reproduce a Marquez Morales type thing. You know what I mean? Barrera, trilogy. I mean, they're just desperate for that. And you're right. It does. I mean, when you have all those guys, those Mexican champion, all those warriors in the audience, they were selling a narrative, and they were trying hard to stick to it. But I guess they're going to be selling tours to that fucking mountain on the side of Valdez's eye.
I mean, apparently, that was terrible.
Did I read correctly that
I think that was a plan from ESPN. They were hoping that this fight was going to be a war, so they could, sell us 2 more fights after that. But after watching the fight, I think they should have realized, okay, you know what? Like, we can't. There's no way we're going to have a second fight. But they were still trying to, which was kind of pathetic.
Jimmy, I think in regards to the I want to get back to that too, Bucho, about the narratives. But Jimmy, I think they said that he broke Navarrete broke Valdez's orbital. I think that's what they said. I'm not sure if
I wouldn't doubt it. The way it swelled up like that, and it was getting even worse. I mean, usually it closed fast. And you know what? Hey, props to Valdez. Fuck, kid's got balls the size of church bells, man. That fucking kid is tough as fucking nails. You know what I mean? No quitting that boy. He kept coming. I'll tell you. It's just you can't train for that kid, but we'll get into that later.
You know what? If it wasn't for Valdez's, three things. His conditioning, his heart, and his footwork allowed him to go the distance. But this is something that we were talking about on Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever we did the preview show. And by the way, I'm really surprised and a little bit disillusioned that this fight, it was a big fight for boxing by boxing standards, for us boxing fans. There's a lot of people, I'm doing the rounds on YouTube, there's a lot of people that didn't even cover the fight. Didn't even talk about it, didn't preview it. Navarrete is highly underrated and disrespected. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, we'll get to that later on. I wanted to get your thoughts on the scorecards and what you, before I go on, you guys know I can go on tirades. But what did you guys think about the fight, Navarrete's performance, the technique, and the scorecards? Did those 2 white scorecards actually reflect what occurred in the ring? Who wants to?
Yes, because it was one-sided. But again, I don't know if I think Valdez won more than 1 round, so that's why I have an issue with a 119, even 118. But still, I mean, they do reflect the way the fight went, in my opinion, because it was a one-sided fight, completely one-sided. It wasn't close. When it comes to Valdez, I don't know what you want to talk about, but what about did he ever improve with what's his name again? The Canelo trainer, Eddie Reynoso.
Yeah.
He makes the same mistakes. He doesn't even fight like Canelo. Like, there's no feints. Those hooks are always telegraphed. He puts all of like all of his energy and into those shots. It's just terrible. And he did the same thing against Shakur. He did the same thing against Consensao. He always does the same thing. I think, I mean, if he wants to continue boxing, he should at least go to 126 if he can make 126. He'd be much more effective down there. Because with that style of 135, 130, there's no way he's gonna do anything.
I want to give a shout out to SSC in the house. Shout out to him for reestablishing his membership program. And he says Navarrete should be in the pound for pound. Hey, we're going to get to that. But we were talking about his skills and how underrated he was before the fight. Bucho makes a good point. Look, we give Oscar Valdez credit for hanging in there. But was that his game plan? Just catch him with one shot coming in. And a lot of the deficiencies that we've mentioned before about Valdez, because ESPN was really trying to hype him up, serve him up in a platter to Shakur Stevenson about how, well, he's undefeated, so he must be that good. I've said it before. He should have lost to Conceição, could have lost against Marliaga, although I do think that fight, he won it, but it was way too close for a guy that's supposed to be, they were trying to build him up as a potential Mexican great. He struggled a lot against Sedvania too. I'm not gonna give him too much shit for the Scott Quick fight, because Quick did come in very heavy, and even then Valdez showed heart, he fought determination. He won that fight. That and the Berchero performances are his best outings. But he showed a lot of deficiencies here. For example, the jab. I was actually more impressed whenever he landed a jab than when he landed a hook, because those left hooks he was landing and Navarrete just shook him off, or he rode with them or half blocked them with his shoulder. The crowd was going wild. Ooh, wow, whenever one of those shots half landed. I was thinking, what the fuck? He's shrugging them off. But what do you guys think about the Navarrete's performance? Actually, the technique, the footwork, the control of distance, the feints.
Gonzalo,
the father asked him in the corner. He asked him in the corner, "How's his power?" And Navarrete didn't say anything. So he dealt with the power. And I heard on the opposite corner, Reynoso telling Valdez, the only way you're going to win this fight is by landing counters. And I was like, man, really? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I remember.
Yep, I heard him say that. He also, I guess, Navarrete, when he did ask him that, Gonzalo, he said, how's his power? He said, he shook his head no, or said no, like it was nothing. And that's, listen, poker face. Yeah, he said, Navarrete, I hate fighters like him that you can't tell you hurt him. He just rubs his nose. Poof, you catch him with this fucking shot that wrong him, and he shows nothing. No distress. Just shakes it off, rubs his fucking nose, and he keeps coming. Listen, that kid's. You can't train for him. That's the problem. When he's in his game. See, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna put it out there because I started getting in my own head. I started watching a film on both these fights, and I could see that left hook if it was counted properly. Because Navarrete's attack. Sometimes he leaves his arms. He's coming real, I thought he'd be susceptible to a left hook. So I was kind of like, damn, man, I don't know if I wasn't too overconfident about my pick. Talked to Mr. BDA. And, I was like, yeah, no, so put me back in my place. But, because honestly, now it kind of shows you that how little he took Liam Nelson. The kid from Australia, he didn't take that fight seriously. You can clearly see that because when he's on his game and condition, that's his thing. It's all about condition. You can't train for that because he throws punches. As a boxer, you got to understand, like you're doing something over and over and over again. This guy's throwing punches that no other boxer would throw in positions like he's off the wrong foot. I mean, Timothy Bradley wasn't being insultive when he said this footwork is awful. It is. It's awful. You would never teach a kid how to fight like that, but it works for him. And it's how do you train for that? That's the question.
The interesting thing about it is
because, like, if you break them in two halves, and you concentrate from the waist down, the footwork. Sometimes he's shuffling the legs, like a great fighter, but the legs don't match what the arms are doing. So sometimes he looks like out of position, but he's actually shuffling the legs to put the weight on a certain foot. Depending on where the action is taking him to throw the combination. So I was like, dude, he actually has great footwork. It's like underrated, man.
It's interesting, man. Jimmy brought up the point about hating to fight a guy like Valdez. Excuse me, Navarrete. that he would hate to fight a guy like Navarrete. You guys have probably encountered this whether you're sparring or fighting. A guy who does things wrong, he's got that loosey-goosey style, like like a Carlos Mausa or Navarrete. Just or like Prince Nassim Hamed, and you just can't get a read on the guy. You can't, and just when you think he's there to be hit, he fucking leans back or he jumps back, and he does it all the time. And you're thinking, what the fuck? And the more you try to, the harder you try to hit, the wider you miss, and the wider you miss, the more tired you get, and it's just frustrating. And that's the problem with Navarrete, or fighting Navarrete rather. He actually has pretty good defense with his feet, with his head movement. When he wants to, he makes himself very hard to hit. So you look at him, and he's coming in, and he makes it seem as if he's gonna jump in. And then you're ready to counter, and he takes a step back, and you miss. And then you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to jump on him. And then you jump on him, and he makes you miss. Then after you miss with your combination, he jumps in with his combination. So now you're tired, you got to regroup, and now he's coming at you with punches from all angles that you don't see coming, and they're hard shots. It doesn't even seem like he's putting that much into them, but you can hear those are some fucking thwacking. That's thwacks in there, Thwack, thwack, thwack. Some wallops too. Yep. Because he loads up on them. So it's really, must be a nightmare to fight a guy like him. And then on top of, like Jimmy said, you finally catch him with your best shot, and he just shrugs it off. And then on top of that, you can't even mark his face because of his good defense. So you don't even see any, results, which, again, boxing is psychological for the large part. And if you don't even see that you're damaging the guy, it must be very discouraging. And I think I saw that from Valdez. Again, I'm not an expert body language reader, but I saw that. Remember we were talking about that before the fight, about how he tends to sort of surrender a little bit. He lacks that extra mentality, the hard mentality to take it to the next level. And I think we saw that last night. He broke a little bit. And probably that's why he was crying after the fight too, which, by the way, we'll get to that again. ESPN once again sneaking into the fucking locker room to film a guy crying. But I think that's why he cried, because he really went into this fight thinking he was going to win. He gave it his all. And it wasn't nearly enough. It wasn't even close to enough to beat a guy like Navarrete. And Navarrete beat him up on top of that. I think that's why he was crying.
I mean, I guess he was admiring the work. And he was kind of in awe when the left hook was landing and it wasn't even buzzing. And he couldn't exert a reaction out of Navarrete. He was like, what the fuck? So basically, that was basically his only game plan, to throw the left hook. One more thing I had to say about the legs. I don't think his legs could be that terrible when he's constantly moving. That dude must be like skipping rope like all the time, to where who moves like that on a constant. Like he must have good legs. But anyhow, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that Valdez gave it his all. I mean, sometimes you lose a fight and you can always tell yourself, oh, I didn't let my hands go, I didn't do this properly, I didn't have a good training camp, whatever. In this fight, Valdez did let his hands go. He did try to win the fight, and it still wasn't enough. And like Jimmy said, I mean, he was hitting him with some good shots sometimes, and Navarrete would just shrug it off. Like, he would continue doing what he was doing. So he really beat him up, not only physically, but mentally. Like, he gave it his all, and it wasn't enough. That's why he was crying.
And you know why also?
I think it was the 9th round he gave up. Oh, sorry, Guy.
It's Mr. BDA. But were you gonna? I don't know if are you gonna go, Jimmy, or you want me to go? Or
no, you. I finished what you were saying.
I was gonna say this in regards to what we were talking about here about the technique, and I think the other thing, the other aspect or factor that played into breaking Valdez mentally was, notice how Navarrete makes you work without actually punching. He's right up there with the pressure fighters. Maybe not in the same style, but it's the same concept as guys like Prime Golovkin, Prime Chocolatito, Lomachenko, that they follow you around and they make you work without throwing shots. Because if you notice in the middle rounds, when Navarrete sort of started slowing down a little bit for the long haul, he was still winning those rounds. Or even if Valdez won them, if you gave him to him, he wasn't dominating those rounds like the way Navarrete was. Because Navarrete, what he'll do is he'll make you work. He was jumping in, or make it seem as if he was jumping with a feint, and Valdez would swing to the wind and miss, and Navarrete would just take a step back. Or then he would feint, and Valdez would start slipping and sliding, side to side as if a punch was coming, and nothing was coming. That was expanding a lot of the energy from Valdez, because you could tell those were sudden, fast twitch movements. And that's how he tires you. He doesn't even have to punch. And, you know,
He's relaxed. He
if
looks
Navarrete
relaxed in
would
there,
have-
and some people even in the chat, on the Discord, in the BDA Discord, were saying like, this guy looks bored at some point, like after round 8 or something like that. Like Navarrete looks like he was bored.
You know why he doesn't
had it
get
on
his
cruise
respect?
control, in a sense.
You know why he doesn't get his respect from the boxing hipsters for the skill and the skills pay the bills crowd? Because he doesn't have a jab, and he's not terribly quick with his straight rights. Even though he's got a good straight right that he can drop guys, he's not pot shotting with the right hand. You know, he's not. His punches aren't. They're thwacking type shots. They're whacking shots, but they're not the crisper shots. They're more thudding shots. And because of that lack of jab too, he can move around, but he's not scoring points with the jab. You know what I mean? So I think that's what sort of lulls people into thinking that he doesn't have great technique. But when he gets on the back foot or when he gets on the defensive, he's very hard to hit. And even then, like I said, when he takes to the center of the ring and even when he's not throwing shots, he's making the guys work mentally because they don't know when the punch is coming, and he makes them slip and slide and weave when nothing's coming, and they're expending energy. Meanwhile, like Bucho said, he's relaxed, he's watching everything, good hand-eye coordination, just very underrated overall.
That's it, BDA. So that's good. That's good hand-eye coordination. Good hand and eye coordination. And when he's taking those steps back, he's controlling the distance. So that means he must have pretty good legs. I mean, how can that be bad footwork when he's putting that those movements on display? That means he's got good footwork.
Well, Gonzalo, I think what he means, like he's throwing punches with his feet together. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just certain things you would never teach a kid. Like this, I would say classic, right? Maybe like Timothy Bradley didn't describe it right, but he was talking from like a fundamental style. Like he's made it work for him because he's able to do it. Got those long freaking arms and shit. But listen, great eye on that, Gonzalo. When you said jump rope, I try to find as much film, and I like to watch their training film, and he's huge on jumping rope. So when you said that, I was like, Gonzalo knows. Yeah, no, he's big in jumping rope. That's one of his big things. He'll do it between rounds instead of resting. He goes and grabs the rope and starts jumping. So he's got that spring in his legs. Yeah, and he throws that uppercut from weird angles. You're not expecting it. And once I saw him start loading up with those big fucking winging headshots, that's when you know you got him. And because what it is, like I say it all the time, I don't care if you're one of the best boxers on the planet. If you're not controlling the pace, you're not comfortable. If somebody's pushing their pace on you, whether it's slow or fast, if it's not a pace that you're comfortable at, it's going to fuck you up. So now you got him pushing pace. Valdez he's not comfortable with fighting at that pace. And then he's loading up. Instead, when you got somebody like him, like I can't believe I was expecting his corner to be like, dude, just go for the chest, start throwing body shots, aim for his chest. You know what I mean? And just put leather on him, because those big punches that you're loading up and missing take so much out of you. It just takes so much out of you. And he really, I think it was the fourth round, he finally caught him clean with a shot, Navarrete. And when I saw him shake that off and just kind of come back with like a 6 fucking punch combo, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long night for this poor kid. And it ended up being the case.
You know what, man?
He is underrated and he doesn't get the respect he deserves, but that doesn't surprise me, especially in the YouTube community.
I can understand why people before the fight picked Valdez, because it's true. Look, Wilson did drop him with the left hook, and he did stun him afterwards with the left hook. But that's what I was talking about. I was on Rapid during the week 2 talking about this, and I said, okay, let's say Valdez catches him with the left hook. Then what? Let's say he drops him. Can he stop him? Because Valdez ain't exactly the best finisher out there either. And it's not like everyone he hits with the left hook, he drops him. And, and let's say he can't stop him with one left hook. Can he land enough of those left hooks to score the win? And that's the thing. If you've watched Valdez long enough, you know he's very limited. He doesn't have a great 1-2. He has a good shotgun jab, but he doesn't utilize it nearly enough. And most of the time, he's just winging hooks. And when he goes on the attack, he just spams the hooks again. Hook, 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 hook. So he's got very good footwork. He's got good defense. He has good offense when he wants to, but he doesn't put it all together. And that's the difference that the boxing chief says all the time. Like, that's the difference between the number 1 pound for pound or top pound for pound guy and a guy that's good, very good, top 10 in his division, but just can't get to the cream of the crop level because he can't put it all together. And that's Valdez. So I think people, and again, even like Gonzalo and other people are saying, in the Wilson fight, he did have an excuse Navarrete to look that way. He was fighting a taller guy out of his division. He wasn't motivated. I think he was even a late replacement. Was he supposed to fight? He was supposed to fight Valdez, I think, in that one. And that's when Valdez, I think, got hurt.
Yes, I believe it was a late replacement.
Right. So I think people made too much of that one. And also the Cuete, when he fought the Cuete Vaz before the Wilson fight, he didn't really look bad in that. The only thing that he looked inferior to compared to other performances was he wasn't landing nearly enough, but he was doing a good defensive work of blocking a lot of what El Cuete Vaz was throwing at him. And then on top of that, he stopped him with a body shot. So the only real bad performance was the Wilson one. And even then in the Wilson fight, he showed you everything that makes him a good fighter. The feints, the conditioning, the footwork, the combinations. He stopped Wilson, beat the crap out of him. So now people are think hopefully they give Navarrete his respect, and if they don't, well, I don't think they'll ever see it. It's a little bit like with the Crawford situation.
His attack, BDA, his attack, I see it like this. When you trade with him, he'll even come back stronger, like in waves. He punches it, he boxes in waves. He mounts an attack where he throws more punches than you are, and it's gonna be like, prepare yourself, because the next combination, I'm coming out stronger and I'm gonna end up throwing more punches than you are. And it's just like a tsunami of punches. So it's like, maybe he's taking a breather when he gets hit, that where you think, oh, is he shook or anything? But then after that, he's just gathering himself to come back stronger. Now, can you hang with what he's doing, with what he's doing next?
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's because also that the punches come from all angles on top of that. So it's just it makes it even more difficult to anticipate what he's going to do. By the way, real quick, a couple of super chats here. Shout out to Never Sobers, who says, I'm legit impressed how quickly the Guns sobers up. Yeah, he was going at you with, last night on the Rapids, Gonzalo. Never Sobers. But I don't understand. Never Sobers knew you were a little inebriated, so I don't understand why you guys decided to go at it. But anyway, it is what it is.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah, man. The gun shakes it off and keeps on walking. Shout out to Plutonium Loach for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, Navarrete should change his name from El Vaquero to El Pulpo. Yeah, the octopus. It's true. He even described on the Morales Barrera podcast, he described his arms as noodles because he knows he's got those long orangutan arms. A lot like Terence Crawford. Obviously, he's not as fast as Crawford, but he's got the same type of wallop that Crawford has because he uses the range of those arms to really create a big arc, a wide arc. And you can tell that first combo that he landed on Valdez, it shook him. Like the way Crawford shook Spence when he hit him with those wallops. So it's amazing that the range and the width on those shots, man. He really does. I mean,
the leverage, the leverage he gets on his punches, which is crazy. Doesn't look like he's even putting much of his body into them. But if you really look and you slow it down, he's doing it from his legs, which is the best way to do it. He'll, like, when he goes to throw that uppercut, he pushes at the same time with his legs. So he's driving the punch up into your face with his legs, so he doesn't have to wind up so much with his arms. And it's impressive. And actually, what you said, remember when I credited you for putting me, like, kind of getting me back on right mind? It was that question you posed. Okay, great. What happens if Valdez does put him down? What then? And that was what made me like, yeah. So that's when I went back. I was like, yeah, no, you're right. That's not his game. Like, he's not going to go berserk like Navarrete. Yeah, no, and his punches, I'll tell you, that's the most deceiving thing. They don't look like there's much on them. And you can clearly tell they're snappy. Like, and you're right about very similar to Crawford, those long arms. And he knows how to work them.
I don't like how you said that I set you straight. I mean, I don't even say, I mean, you were thinking about it. You know, it's like, we're conferring. I've conferred with you in the past too. Like, I go up to you and I go, hey, Jimmy, I got these clips. What do you think? Is this pick right?
I was second guessing. I was kind of second guessing myself a tad. And then you just posed that question. It was the right question to get my mind back on the right track. It's like, yeah, I shouldn't get in my own head. You know what I mean? I was starting to second guess the pick because I was looking at things I could see where he comes in sometimes kind of like a reckless abandonment, but it's controlled chaos. That's the best way I describe his fighting style. It looks chaotic, but he's so good at what he's doing. It's controlled chaos. You think you're going to catch him? And that's what Ronaldo was telling him. Time him. try to time him with the counter. Like they wanted him, but it's hard because he throws off time. Like, again, I always say fighting is rhythm. In music, there's timing. He throws off time, so it's like jazz. It's like you're not expecting it in a position like when normally you would kind of get into a rhythm and you throw your punch. He throws it in between timing, so it's so hard to get his rhythm down because it's awkward. And he'll throw at one point, he'll come down off his left, and he throws it. And then the next time he throws it with the other. Now that foot's behind him, and he does it. So he's a very hard guy to get his rhythm down.
Now, let's talk about, by the way, let me just reiterate, because when you make a pick, for example, I'm talking everybody, when we make picks, let's say I pick Navarrete. That doesn't mean I didn't give Valdez a chance. I'm not saying 100-0, for Navarrete. I understood why when people gave their picks and they picked Valdez, I understood why, because a lot of people broke it down well. They said, well, if he can land those hooks and take advantage of Navarrete's technical shortcomings when he lunges in and he's slightly slower. But that's the thing about Navarrete now. I think people now have seen it. When he's on point and when he trains properly, he's not the fastest, he's not the quickest, but he's precise, he's accurate. You don't need to be there's plenty of fast guys out there and they don't throw combos. Tank Davis seems to be faster than Navarrete punch for punch. He doesn't throw combos. He's content with just running around the ring and trying to land one bomb. And with the quality of opposition that he's fought so far, that's been able to work. But the thing about Navarrete is, because I was thinking about that, let's say Navarrete fights Hector Luis Garcia, I think he's going back down to 130 after the losing to Tank Davis at 135. I would actually rather face a guy like Tank Davis than Navarrete, because even though Tank Davis does punch hard, he's going to be running around the ring and he's going to be looking for one shot. So there's a lot of room for you to work yourself and maybe outbox him. And, Tank Davis has lost a lot of rounds. But Navarrete, he's not going to do that. He's going to come at you. And, I was watching The Shield, the FX show, The Shield, with Vic Mackey and all those corrupt cops. There was one guy who said they gave him a 20-year stretch in prison. And he says, hey, he said that he's just living one long day. 20 years is just one long day. And I said, you know what? That's kind of what it is fighting Navarrete. It's one long round. Because he just like I said, he makes you work even when he's not throwing shots. And so that's the thing. I'd rather fight a guy who's going to be running around the ring any day than a guy like Navarrete who's going to come at you from all angles. He's not going to let you breathe. He's going to make you work with feints. It must be a nightmare.
Perfect word, nightmare. By the way, that show Shield, that dude, that Michael Chikalinas, whatever, he's grew up about 3 blocks away from where I grew up.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's from Lowell. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It's one long night. It's one long night, and you gotta tell yourself: Are you gonna be willing to give something? Like, are you gonna be willing to put yourself in there when when the night is over, you're not gonna walk out the same ever in your life. You're gonna leave something in that fight that you're never getting back. That's the way it is probably to fight Navarrete. You gotta be willing to do that because he's taking you rounds. He's beating you up. He broke his face. Valdez took some punishment that he's never going to be the same. He's the type of, it's kind of like Subriel Matias. When you're fighting him, your life is on the line.
I mean, I understand what you're saying because that's what it is. He's going to hurt you. If he doesn't knock you out, he's going to make it a very long night. That's essentially what it is. He's going to hurt you every round.
And can I say something too? I think honestly, and some people might get offended by this, but I think the Burchelt win was overrated. The reason being, I think those fights with Vargas, Burchelt took a lot out of him. I thought he looked washed that night. I didn't like the way he looked from the opening bell. I don't know if you go back and watch that fight, he didn't take those punches well at all, right from the outset. So I think he was already on a major downslide. I think those wars he was in really took a number on him, and I think Valdez caught him at the right time, and I think it's kind of given him kind of a false sense of, who he was as a fighter. But because again, if you look, all the people and a lot of people whose opinions I respect and hold in high regard all had Valdez. I was going with Valdez for this, including Steve Kim. So that goes to tell you, he's usually right on the money. So, but
I mean,
BDA. What is it?
Yeah,
biggest dicks around. That's what somebody said about us.
They what?
No, BDA, Hamanites said biggest dicks around are on the fucking point again. He sent that to me to DM. He goes, the biggest dicks around are on point with the fucking picks again. That's what he sent to me after the fight.
I don't want to. I can't
Before
measure.
the
I
fight.
don't know about your cocks, but I know I'm pretty.
How many cocks you jacked off?
Well, wait a minute. What the fuck? Listen, I wanted to say this, man. I don't know who was playing that. I will say this. Let's talk about the narratives about this fight, because I was on Rapids last night, and yeah, Gonzalo, you get a little out of line there, a little bit. You were interrupting a little too much, man, and that's why when you and Never Sobers went at it, I was like, man, what the fuck? Somebody has to try to tell Gonzalo, man. But anyway, that's in the past. I wanted to bring
No,
this
I
up.
usually keep it boxing. But hey, nah, dude, I drank 6 beers, but by the time I was finished, I had already sobered up. It
Yeah,
didn't
man, I
really
don't
do
know.
anything to me.
Can I say I don't understand how, I know to each his own, but I don't understand how people can enjoy the fight when there are, too many beers in or too much alcohol in, because otherwise now you're not, I mean, you gotta have a certain sharpness to enjoy the fight. That's me, man. I don't know. Maybe you guys, it's the opposite. Maybe you can't enjoy it if you're not a little loose, a little loosey-goosey. But I'll say this, man, because we were talking on the Rapids about this, and it's true. Look, somebody brought up the good point. I don't know if it was Earl Stevens or Ed Dog. Sorry, guys, I forget who it was. It was very hectic last night. Look at these stats. Navarrete threw 1,038 punches, landed 216. Valdez 140 out of 436. Valdez threw 1,000 shots. That means he was being very active. Now, like Bernard Hopkins used to say, the reason why a lot of guys like to counterpunch because they don't want to get out of the cage. They don't want to reach out of the cage. Meaning, the more you're punching, the more open you are and susceptible to counter shots, to eating counter shots. Now, the fact that Navarrete threw 1,000 shots and walked out of there without a scratch just goes to show you that offense is defense. If you're putting it on the guy and he's not punching back, that's your defense. But here's the thing. It wasn't just the offense. He actually did, like we said, some very good defensive work. In fact, there was a point, and I mentioned this during the fight when we were on Rapids, there was a point where Valdez cornered Navarrete and threw about like a 6-punch combo and missed with everything. And I'm thinking, there you go. The fucking guy stood right there in the corner and made him miss. That's great defense. Do you think he's going to get that credit? Apparently not. So my thing is this, real quick. So he threw 1,000 shots, walked away with a scratch. I go on Twitter. What are the headlines I'm reading? Navarrete beats Valdez in a war. Navarrete beats Valdez in an all-Mexican shootout. And like we said in the beginning, like Bucho pointed out, that's actually discrediting Navarrete because it makes it seem like it was a back-and-forth war a la Barrera Morales or Castillo Corrales or Gary Ward. It wasn't that type of fight. It was a beatdown. I had the fight. I wasn't scoring it officially, but it was about like a 10-2 fight for Navarrete. Maybe 9-3 or 8-4 if you really want to be generous. Anything more than that, I didn't see it. So what's this thing about? And like Jimmy also mentioned it, the commentators. Oh, I think they were they sold this fight as if it's going to be a Mexican shootout. And the fact that it wasn't turning into that, I think maybe the people in the truck or maybe the commentators themselves felt that they really had to try to paint it that way. Because I don't understand what they were seeing, really, honestly. It wasn't a war. It wasn't a back and forth thing. It was Navarrete beating him up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if you closed your eyes and just listened to the announcers, you would think that was a close fight. Because every time, like Valdez wouldn't even land anything clean. Oh, gee, what a counter by Valdez. Talking about. He took the fucking, that was off his glove. Didn't even catch him flush with it. Yeah, no, they were clearly trying to sell it as a back and forth when it wasn't. You know what I mean? It wasn't. It wasn't a back and forth. And I was scoring it real liberal. Like I was trying to give us every benefit of the doubt to Valdez, right? Because I always figure somebody's going to be a shitty. And I think I scored it 8-4. And again, I was very, that was being nice to Valdez. I could have easily scored that thing 9-3, but I scored it 8-4, which is still a pretty one-sided. That's not a back and forth. An 8-4 is a pretty one-sided beating.
Jimmy, you're on the money, man. You're on the money when you said that Valdez would, and I understand. Look, the crowd doesn't always have the best vantage point. Neither do the commentators. But I'm watching a lot of those shots glancing off of Navarrete as he's rolling away from them, hitting him on sliding off the temple. he's half blocking them, and they're still going. Oh, particularly in the 10th round, about that 1 minute 50 into the round. Tim Bradley says, "Oh, there he goes Valdez. He's waiting for that counter. He's waiting, and then he throws a hook. Navarrete rolls with it, and he goes, oh!" Or I think the other guy, the other commentator went, "Oh." I'm thinking, what the fuck? I rewinded. It didn't land, and I'm thinking, holy shit! They were really invested in trying to paint this as if it was an all-out war, and it wasn't. It was a fun fight because Navarrete made it fun, and Valdez, bless his heart, gave it his all too. But it wasn't nearly enough for it to be a back and forth affair like they were making it to be. It's weird, man. Again, some people are pointing out, like some people on Reddit are saying that this just continues the top rank ESPN trying to demean and degrade performances from non-Afro-Anglo fighters. Listen, I hate to complain, but it's starting to look that way, and especially after what we saw last night. It's I don't know, man. It's like Bucho. Let's put things into context here for Navarrete, the type of fighter he is. Because now we can add an addendum to this. We said that Navarrete... Hold on. We said Navarrete beat Pitufo Diaz worse than Shakur Stevenson did. And I actually beat him up and stomped him. He stopped him. Joed Gonzalez decided to go to war against Navarrete, try to back him up, take him out of his element, and he ended up walking through a wood chipper. They say going to the belly of the beast. He was actually in the belly of a beast because he looked like he'd been fucking digested. Then you've got Isaac Dogbo. He beat up Dogbo twice, stopped him in the second fight. No one's been able to do that. Not even Robeisy Ramirez, who hits pretty fucking hard and is fast-handed on top of that. Now he beats Valdez up better than anyone ever has. Like at this point, can he finally get his fucking credit? Can people finally say, he might be a pound-for-pound talent right there?
Yeah, he beat. If you think about Shakur, who was a bigger dude because he just moved up to 35, he fought Pitufo Diaz, he fought Joed Gonzalez, and he fought Valdez. All three of those guys, Navarrete beat worse. He beat them worse. He dropped those guys. Credit to Valdez, he didn't get dropped. But those were great performances from Navarrete.
And Gonzalo, somebody said in the chat that there was a Cuban podcast or something they were listening to, and they were saying how Robeisy Ramirez schools Navarrete. Maybe he does. Look, Robeisy Ramirez, he's a great talent. But you look at the Dogbo fight, and I'm not painting triangle theory here. I'm not saying that because Navarrete was more impressive against Dogbo, he therefore beats Ramirez. But I'm just saying there is a difference in demeanor. Ramirez hits hard, but it's mostly with that left hand. He loads up on the left hand. Navarrete is a two-handed puncher. Even if he doesn't see the target, he'll make the target. He'll throw his combos. I just see a bit of a difference in class there. And I think he's also beaten better opponents than Ramirez. I mean, Ramirez has the what's his name? Dogbo, and the other guy, Galaxy, or with the blonde beard. Sorry, forgetting his name. Not Galaxy. What's his name? He's got a constellation nickname.
He brings out a mascot of himself, a big mascot of himself.
How come I'm forgetting the fucking name,
I know
man?
what you're talking about. But they're high. If they're saying that, they're high. He's not going to fucking work him.
Supernova. That's why. Yeah, thank you, Nova.
Yeah,
he's got the Nova win.
That's it.
Abraham Nova, Simon.
Yeah, he's got the Supernova win and the Dogbo, and good wins. Especially the Nova win, the way he fucking flattened him with that left hand. But that's the thing, though. It's one left hand at a time. He's going to need combos. He's going to need precision. He's going to really have to be on point. Anyone's going to have to be on point to beat or even try to dominate Navarrete. And sorry, guys, but yeah.
He's got that killer left hook. Left uppercut. The left uppercut. He gets a lot of leverage on that punch.
He does, man. He does. Well, listen, I mean, that's the point with Navarrete. I was surprised at how offensive he was, and then at the same time walked away with a scratch, despite all the headlines about how this was a back and forth war. It just seems to me like Navarrete, if people don't get him now, they never really will. But I really am interested to see the videos that come out now. The film analysis videos and all that about Navarrete's genius positioning and all that, because I think now some people are seeing it.
I wanted.
Yes, yes.
Can I just add one thing about Navarrete about his defense? The thing I was most impressed with all night is how he remembered to keep his right up, covering his face. That was well schooled. He knew the left hook was Valdez's best punch, and for the first 6-7 rounds, anytime he threw a right before that left was away, his right was up by his jaw. He was protecting his jaw on the right side. You know what I mean? So that was going to show you that they went in with a good game plan and he stuck to it. So again, to your point about defense, I was very impressed by that because that's not an easy thing to remember, especially when you're winning the fight, to keep that mindset.
Yeah, excellent point, Jimmy. Excellent. And we mentioned that off the air too about how if he comes in here not respecting the left hook, then he's a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? It's like, I understand he didn't respect Wilson's left hook, but if he's smart, he would be going into the Valdez fight knowing that left hook is coming and therefore making the appropriate changes and adjustments to block that. And like you said, he did. I mean, he kept that shoulder too, that chin tucked into the shoulder. Yep. Now, yeah, please hit the like button. Hit the like. Really helps us out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I want to say something. Okay, so enough complaining about the narratives and all that. Like I said, if people don't get Navarrete now, they never will. But let's talk about the future. There's a potential Shakur Stevenson fight in the mix, even though Stevenson is at 135, and he should really be at 147. I don't know how he makes 135. There's also, though, intriguing fights at 130. Like I said, Hector Luis Garcia, he's with the PBC, but he's not nearly enough a big name. And like Boxing Chief accurately predicted, the PBC is now cutting inventory, so they might allow Hector Luis Garcia to go abroad. But I tell you, the fight that really whets my appetite here is the Joe Cordina fight. He's half Welsh, half Argentinian, I think, according to Bucho. He just beat Rakimov in his last fight. It was a very interesting fight. This guy is quick. He hits hard. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, so he's 2 inches taller than Navarrete. And we saw how Wilson's height did cause Navarrete problems. Guys, what do you think about the potential Cordina fight? Is that something that you would be interested in more than any other fight? Or what do you want to see Navarrete do next?
I'd love to see him fight fucking Davis. Just my own opinion. I'd love to see that fight. I think he would fucking work him. You saw what pushing pace does to him with Rolly and Isaac Cruz. And they don't push pace nowhere near like Navarrete. You know how uncomfortable he would be in there? And he telegraphs his punches now because his conditioning isn't like it used to be. So, I mean, he throws minimum amount of punches. I think Navarrete, if he was to go up 135, it would never happen. I mean, Davis would never fight him because Floyd knows boxing. He knows. I think Navarrete would fucking school him.
Really? So you think he would school Tank Davis?
Yes, I think he would beat his fucking brains in, actually. He's just too small. He's the length on him. It's how long his arms. He had a 2-inch height advantage, but 6 inches on his arms. So he would have, I think, almost an 8-inch arm advantage over Tank. Tank's even shorter than Valdez, and because his uppercuts are so vicious, like those ones where if you make sure you have to have your jaw shut and clenching your mouthpiece, he's gonna fucking snap your teeth. One of those tooth breaking fucking uppercuts that suck. And I think you'd be susceptible to those all night long. The way he crouches in and stuff, and with those long arms, I think those uppercuts would just punish Davis.
Jimmy, it's hard. It's difficult to gauge Tank Davis's power because people used to say that, wow, and I used to think that too, wow, his power is pretty good. I mean, he knocked out Barrios. Now it turns out Barrios was weight drained with a rehydration clause. So that goes out the window. Ryan Garcia was dehydrated with a rehydration clause. So now you're thinking, how real is his power? So I understand what you're saying, man. Navarrete could easily outwork Tank Davis because, like I said earlier, Tank Davis, that's his game. He frustrates you with his defense out of the back foot, and then he nails you with one big shot. So again, the question here would be, if he can't take out Navarrete with one shot, I don't see him comprehensively outboxing Navarrete either. So, I mean, I think everything you said is on point right there, man.
He's terrible on his back foot. And Navarrete puts everybody in their back foot just because of the pace he pushes.
According to Eric Morales, everybody that spars Navarrete, because he's training at his gym down in Tijuana, everybody that he spars always says how hard that guy hits with the two hands.
Well, you saw him, like I said in the beginning, how he shook up Valdez with the first combo he hit him with. I mean, look, I wouldn't say it would be easy against Tank Davis because, like I said, when Tank Davis gets on that back foot on the defensive, that's his game. He frustrates guys with the defense and he makes them overcommit and then he catches them with one shot. But the question is, if he can take out Valdez with one shot, I think it'd be a
But that's
bit.
the thing,
A bit
BD,
I think
when you mentioned
real quick,
Cordina, I think
I
he's a
think it'd be
counterpuncher. Cordina's a counterpuncher. Same
I just
thing
want
with
to say
Davis.
this. Let me just finish this. I think it'd be a bit of a repeat of the Isaac Cruz fight, where Tank Davis is just running around throwing one single shot at a time, and it's very, very close. That's all I want to say.
I mean, you got to keep up with the volume, with the exchanges, because if not, Navarrete is going to get his get back. When you hit him, he's going to hit you, but not with one, not with two, with combinations. And like Jimmy said, they're going to be punches that are going to like beat your brains in. So, I mean, yes, last night, Navarrete proved to have a solid chin. Because obviously, Valdez was training on that left hook, but it wasn't hurting Navarrete. Now, will I go just plant my face and give Tank Davis a free shot for him to knock me out? No, I wouldn't do that either. Of course, obviously, but he had a lot of things that he can rely on. And Navarrete got the legs, like you were mentioning in the beginning, to create that separation. That left lead uppercut, that he's not fully committing his body entirely. When he can use that hand where the body's not totally committed, right? So he brings some things to the table. It's not just like he's gonna go in there and take punches and give you free shots.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right, man. And Furioso said it well too on Rapids on Fight Week. He said if Navarrete had a jab, he'd be damn near impossible to fucking beat. As it is, he doesn't really have that stick, so he can't control the fight as easily as he would want. But he does a pretty good job without it either as well. So this is gonna be a problem. This is gonna be a problem. We're gonna be opening up the phone lines. Yeah.
I was just going to say, before you open up the line, just want to say, one thing, Navarrete gave him his hat, his Stenson at the end of the fight. That was a really cool gesture, man. That was a classy gesture. The first of those things on cheap, and, Cowboys, man, they were all about their hats. To give him his hat like that was a big show of respect. And the reason why I say that was a big show of respect, because honestly, Valdez was fucking, I thought he was dirty as a motherfucker. He was trying to rabbit punch him all night. Every time Navarrete turned and kind of crowded in on him, the ref kept wanting him back of the head, but he was missing. It was just missing. But he would literally come down over the top, and the only place you could hit was the back of the head. So, like, his intentions were there. He was trying to punch him in the back of the fucking head. I mean, all night he was. Remember? I mean, you must remember how many times he did it. A couple of times. Navarrete doesn't even complain. Not once did he say, "Hey, back of the head." Nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, that happens, like you said, it happens because he turns away something. But it happened a lot in the Joey Gonzalez fight. And, but I mean, even then, the fighters, if you turn away from the guy, it's up to you to defend yourself. But at the same time, it's a bit of a weird move that he does. Shout out to Rider of the Storm for his contribution with Super Chat. He says, I believe Navarrete would have an easier time with Shakur Stevenson due to his lack of power. But Tank could catch Navarrete lunging in to throw an uppercut. Yeah, that power, even though he might not take him out with one shot, it could potentially hurt him. So it would be an interesting fight, but don't, like Jimmy said, don't count on it happening. I mean, this fucking PBC said they want to keep everything in-house. That means Isaac Cruz, that means Hector Luis Garcia rematch, or Rolly Romero rematch, or Chris Colbert. You're not going to see Navarrete in a PBC fight anytime soon.
Before we go to the phone lines, should we talk about the Anthony Joshua spectacular knockout?
I was going to bring that up, but fuck, I was going to say something else, man, before that. You guys go ahead. Go ahead about the Anthony Joshua after I remember. But yeah, Anthony Joshua ended up...
I think he really got him. What's that?
Just real quick. It was in the Anthony. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Anthony Joshua knocked out Helenius in the 7th round. He was looking bad in that one. Well, we'll get to that later, but he was looking bad. He ended up knocking him out in the 7th round. You guys are saying suspect right hand? Suspect ending is what you're saying?
I think that Helenius was looking for an out. I think the first big shot, he was going to stay down. It did catch him, but if you look at it in slow motion, he was completely pulling away and his head was turning. Like a knockout usually going to snap the neck. Because remember what a knockout is? What a knockout is your brain sits in gel. And what happens is the sudden jerk of your head, right? Snapping it back. And in that motion, your brain staying still and, and your head snaps and your brain touches the wall inside your skull. And it instantly, it shuts itself off. It shuts the body off because that's just clearly danger part time, bruising your brain. So your body just shuts off. And his neck didn't snap. Like his head didn't snap back. He took a lot of that shot. Do I think it put him down? Sure. But do I think he could have got up? Yeah. I think why bother? His legs must have been burning his leg. And we took that fight on 7 days' notice. So that's what I mean by suspect. I don't think it was a dive. I just think he could have got up and he was just fucking. The oxygen's cooler down here. I'm just gonna hang.
Well, what do you guys think? I mean, it seems like
Joshua. Well, Joshua wasn't even throwing that many punches. Like he was like, at first I'm like, okay, a feel out round, but then after 4 rounds, I'm like, okay, what the fuck are you doing? Like, started throwing that right hand. He wasn't. So I mean, was he trying to get some rounds in, or is there something wrong with Joshua?
Well, the fact that
I'll be right back real quick. Just to let you know, I'll be right back. So you guys, I'll be right back, right? You guys take over.
Well, like I was saying, the fact that the English crowd at a couple of times started booing Bucho, that's huge. That's huge. Like, when have they ever booed Anthony Joshua? That's their favorite son. So when they're booing him, I think honestly what's happening, he seems like one of those dudes who wants to please his coach. He wants to do what Derek James told him to do. And you could see he's fighting in different styles. Like, you know what I mean? Like I like the way he fought against Usyk was much better. I think he did. I think Garcia did a much better job with him. You could see he turned him in kind of like, think about it. He was kind of more of a 1-2 puncher, right? Jab followed by the right hand. 1-2. Similar to Spence, similar to Charlo. It's the Derek James way. Stand up, very straight up, throw stiff, hard, stepping jab, and try to hide the right behind it. That's like he really pushes that in his, and you could see that's what he was doing. In the fact that even the announcers like, man, this is a point where you would have normally seen Joshua throw 2 or 3 extra shots right there, but he wasn't. It was the 1-2, the 1-2.
Did Joshua even go to the body?
James. I don't remember, but
I don't think so. I didn't even think he threw a punch to the body. Not a combination or nothing. It was like you said, Jimmy. Was that 1-2, 1-2, 1-1-1? Go ahead, Gonzalo.
I think the punch, when he knocked him out, he threw a feint to the body. So he kind of like went low, then changed levels with the right hand upstairs.
Okay. Yeah, but for the most part, it was all the same thing the whole time.
Can I say something about that? Yeah, couple of things. That the right hand, I rewatched it. People are showing on Twitter. They're showing the replay from all angles, and he did touch him on the tip of the chin. And he did shake. I think most people focus too much on the impact, but they don't focus on the aftermath of the impact or the whiplash created. Like Jimmy was saying, that the fucking brain is inside a gel container. You shake up that brain, the head, and the brain touches a part of the head, it's concussion time. So if you watch if the head is snapping sideways or it's snapping back, and if it snaps back for a split second and then right back up in position, that means it went back and forth. That shakes up the brain, that knocks you out. I did see that type of impact and aftermath and whiplash on what's his name? Northman over here. But
Robert Helenius.
Yeah, thank you. But whether Helenius decided to call it quits, maybe, because he sort of did a similar thing against Wilder. So I wouldn't be. Can I say for certain? I don't know. But when people like Jimmy and other people look at it and go, suspect, I tend to agree. But like Bucho was saying too, let's talk about that. Anthony Joshua, what the hell was he doing? It seemed like every round was a feel-out round, which was highly boring. And in fact, I don't know if you guys heard, but Anthony Joshua had a bit of an attitude, as he has had an attitude in his last 2 fights, because his fans haven't really enjoyed it too much. And he said, for the people booing, how many of them have ever boxed before? He pulled out the how many of you have ever boxed card.
Ugh.
And so, what do you guys think about that? Like, when it comes to
That's disgusting. I hate that. I fucking hate. No, really. I hate that when I hear fighters do that shit. You fucking let you step in the ring. Nah, dude, I went to college. You fucking retard. Like that pisses me. You know what I mean? It's to like say that you shouldn't have an opinion. Listen, they're paying your salary. They can say whatever they want. You know what I mean? They're buying your pay-per-views. They're showing up to your fights. It's their money that you're buying your Rolls Royces with, okay? They want to complain, they can complain. And on top of that, this whole notion that someone has to box to be able to good analysis, or, that's another thing that's just a crock of shit. There's tons of great boxing guys with great boxing acumen and knowledge who've never stepped in the ring because they've studied it.
Well, can I say this, man?
Yeah, that really bothers me.
Yeah, look, I've been on the record saying that if I'm a paying customer, I should have the right to critique your performance, especially if I'm an educated boxing fan. I'm not saying, oh, there's nothing going on, so I'm just going to, I don't see anything going on, so I'm going to boo. But people have the right to complain about it. Now, with Joshua, I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here because I understand what he's doing. Steve Kim brought up a good point of the 3 knockdown rule. He said, okay, this late replacement thing, it's a big downgrade, fighting a guy like Helenius. But it's a fight. Nowadays, when people fight once a year or two, if they're lucky, AJ fighting this guy and getting some rounds in, that's what I was sort of expecting. I was expecting him to take his time. But there's a difference between taking your time and breaking a guy down while you're doing it, like he did to Pulev about 3-4 years ago, and what we saw last night. And then on top of that, he was eating jabs, his nose was bleeding. He did look like he was having a hard time in there because he was kind of like Valdez, flailing at the wind. And I saw that he was trying to set up Helenius. Like Jimmy said, Helenius can be an awkward guy, leaning all the way back with his size and height. Makes it awkward to catch him with a clean shot. And sometimes a straight right in that scenario is not the best weapon. The best weapon is a left hook. But he was missing. He was having a hard time in there. And here's my question to you guys, because I saw the people asking on Twitter too. If he fights Wilder this way, because apparently that's a fight they're going to make in December. If he fights Wilder this way and he gives him too much time to think and too much distance, is it over for AJ?
If he stands up straight like that and doesn't move his head or like very stationary, at some point he might not judge the distance properly. He might be in range. He's gonna get hit, and like sort of like the Ortiz Wilder second fight. But I still think Joshua is much better than Deontay Wilder, and Joshua does have a lot of power. There's no doubt about it. He lands on. He can put on a beating on Wilder. So I'm not that concerned. I still think Joshua beats Wilder. He's just much better than Wilder.
Yeah.
And by the way, just one last thing, Jimmy. Yep. Wilder, when was the last time he fought?
Mm-hmm.
Going on almost 2 years.
Go ahead.
Yeah, going on 2 years. I was just saying. So.
Oh yeah.
That's what you're saying.
No, exactly. That's my question.
But that's the thing, though.
So if that fight happens, Jimmy, how do you think it plays out?
Well, if he fought him the way he fought Helenius, he's going to sleep because he was staying out the end of Helenius' punches. Mm-hmm. Helenius is a little better defensive fighter than Wilder, though. Believe it or not. I mean, because he's awkward in the way he fights, it's harder to get a. Wilder's actually pretty easy to hit on, but you don't want to be out at the end of his punches. That's just not where you want to be. So, I just don't like the style he's training. I don't like the 1-2. He used to throw combinations. He used to go to the body. I mean, you go look at the way he fought Klitschko, and you look at that fighter last night. Then you take in the tentativeness that I think has creeped into his game from that loss from Ruiz. He's never got over it mentally, right? Getting starched. He's never got over it. And he's still fighting tentatively.
But that's the thing, though. He looked good against Pulev. He looked good against Usyk, even though he lost. And we know how good Usyk is. And especially in the rematch, he actually improved. So there's room for him to grow. It's you know what it seems like to me now, man? It seems like he's trying, after all that he's gone through, he's got 3 losses now. I think he's trying to turn it into Vladimir Klitschko, where he wants to win a fight by doing the bare minimum and controlling the fight easy with a jab and then just landing a big right hand and ending things. He has to understand that that's not him. Like Jimmy was saying, the combos, that's what makes AJ. When he starts letting his hands go, the offense is his game. He's not a master boxer like Usyk or Vladimir Klitschko. He never will be. And that's the other thing. When people were saying like, oh, there's room for improvement, this and that. Look, there's always room for improvement. But here's the thing, guys. He's 33 years of age. He's going to be 34 in October. He's not, I mean, I know heavyweights tend to last longer than smaller guys, but let's face the fact, he's not a prospect anymore. That's a PR move right there. I remember they used to do that with Jermaine Taylor back in the 2000s too. And when HBO was really trying to paint him as the next middleweight star, and Jim Lampley would refer to him as the kid. And I forget who said it afterwards, but he said, the kid's 29 years old. At which point do you say, you know what, oh, the room for improvement?
They're trying to make this out. Yeah, they're trying to sell you this is a new chapter in his career, in the sense that he has to be. But okay, it might be a new chapter in his career, but that doesn't mean he has to change. He also has to be boring. He has to have fight like that, like throwing a jab. He's trying to show us that he has boxing skills or something, like he's a master boxer or something. He's not. He's a big guy with good with power. Has very good combinations for a heavyweight his size, and he should continue doing that. Okay, it didn't work out against Usyk, okay, but it's gonna work against these other guys.
Exactly. Very well said.
He fought a good fight under Robert Garcia. The second fight performed better than the first against Usyk. He left Garcia. Actually, Garcia went over there because I saw the interview, and he had a bunch of people over there that Garcia said, I don't want to train you. And basically he told them, hey, buy me my plane ticket. I want to go home. But then they convinced him to stay because AJ went on record talking bad about Robert Garcia. And you could, obviously, when you hear that Robert Garcia, he was probably getting paid like a good amount of money, but he preferred maybe like to step away rather than to train him because they wanted to do their own thing. Now he went from England over to Texas because I believe that's where he's living. And that dude he started losing Derek James. So what you gonna do for PR? It's not working for you now with him. He's going through his bad spell. So what is it gonna be next?
He's not turning to La Hoya, who was like switching trainers all the time.
Well, he's already there, man. He's already at that stage, and that's why I wanted to get your input on that, guys, about how, you know, like Bucho said, he's trying to be a master boxer. He's not a master boxer. I don't think he ever will be now at this stage, you know, almost 35 years of age. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, look, his size is a lot of what makes him what he is. And that's what it's always been. The fact he can overpower guys. And once he starts throwing those combos of his, watch out, get the fuck out of the way, because he's going to knock you out. That's what he needs to accept, right, guys? Like, how? In other words, what I'm trying to get is, how would you tell him, look, stop trying to be something you're not. It's good that you're trying to improve your skills. There's always room for small improvements, but you're not going to be Vladimir Klitschko at this point. You're not going to be Alexander Usyk, where you can control the fight with
Tell
just
that to Derek James. Tell that to Derek James. I agree with Jimmy. That's his fault. I mean, and Josh is doing what he has to do as a boxer. He's listening to his trainer, but I think he made a mistake by going with him.
He was trying to keep him like fight smooth, like do it this way. We're gonna get you to be a boxer. You have the skills. Let's bring it out of you. But bro, if you know anything about human physiology, you would know that he does not have the build for a boxer. He's got too much mass in his upper body. It's just that's not. If he's going to continue to carry that, he should have went and blitzed him in the first round. Just started blitzing him. Helenius doesn't put that kind of power in his punches. Just go in there and start whipping combinations. You could have took him out one round. He has the strength and the ability, but he was trying to show like skill set. But when your local crowd, the reason why he was probably mad because the crowd was booing him. I mean, that's bad, man. Because he's, like I said, he's the king over there. Can I just add one thing too? I just want to say, anyway, Rodriguez, he looked really sharp. In fact, Mr. BDA had to tell me I was out cutting my lawn. He tell me to fight. I'm like, oh shit. So, anyways, I went in and man, he looked sharp. He's one of the best. He's now the new PBC champion. And Jimmy, anyway, kind of obliterated him in 2 rounds.
Kind of ironic that a Mexican had to interrupt your lawn cutting so you could actually watch the fight. Well, yeah, sorry, you were saying he looked great. He looks sharp, huh? This motherfucker is sharp.
He is, yep. He's an Olympic. He's an Olympic silver medalist. I mean, he's,
I wanted to get your thoughts on this,
fighter. Accurate, quick hands, knows when to throw punches, great with his distance.
Wouldn't you like to see him sit down on his shots a little bit more, though? It seems like sometimes he's just trying to get the quickest shot out there instead of the more powerful one.
lot of years in the amateurs that you can always tell somebody's spent a long time in the amateur system.
What are you talking about, Jamie? Richard Torres?
Manny Rodriguez, the Puerto Rican.
Oh,
We
my
found
God,
another
yes,
Puerto
that's
Rican
right.
world champion. Yeah, on Showtime. He looked sharp. And it's another feather in Inouye's cap, because right now he's one of the better PBC champions. And think about it, Inoue took him out in 2 rounds. It was crazy. It was like 300 and something seconds. He just obliterated him.
Yeah, it was a good performance from Emanuel Rodriguez. Dropped him 3 times. I missed the knockdown, by the way, because by the time that the 12th round came in, I think Richard Torres was fighting. So I had to switch over to... I forget what happened, but I had to switch off. But yeah, Rodriguez looked sharp in there. Here's the other thing, though, and briefly on this. By the way, the phone lines are open, people. The phone lines are open if you want to call in, give us your thoughts on Navarrete, AJ, all the guys that fought. We're going to get to Hrgovic, too. He also fought last evening, rather. But I wanted to... Gary Antoine Russell fought. Now, if you remember, I was making a big deal out of this about 4 weeks ago, or I forget however long it was. He was supposed to fight on a PBC undercard, and he never showed up. And they never gave a reason why that fight was postponed. Well, finally, he ended up fighting the guy he was supposed to a couple of months ago. He fought him last night. Easy work, as expected. He dropped him with a body shot in the first round. The last time Gary Anton Russell had fought was in July 2022. So now it's a year in between fights. He only gets 1 round. This is a guy that's supposed to be on the up and up, supposed to be one of the PBC's brightest stars, and he's going down the Gerard Ennis route. I don't want to sound alarmist, but this is concerning. He's only had 1 fight in 1 year, and it's only been a round. And they put him in there with a guy that was undefeated, but you looked at his fights on YouTube, and you could tell he wasn't all that. So, I don't know, guys. PBC is just fumbling the ball again with another young fighter.
It's the Heyman philosophy. It's the Heyman philosophy. Match them soft. 2 reasons. You don't have to pay the guy a lot. That guy was a ham and egger. Just because if you look at the guys, his record, the guys he beat, they were terrible. So it was a ham and egg that got in there to have him put away. So now he's 17-0 with 17 knockouts against 2, though. I know he fought the Ukrainian kid, but that was a terrible stoppage. That was one of those, we want to get him the stoppage. Mm-hmm. Remember, I can't remember the kid's name, but it's his biggest win. But yeah, it was a terrible stoppage. So he's setting him up to be exposed, is what's happening. We're literally watching it before our eyes.
I can't. By the way, Mr. B, we have some phone calls, and I'd just like to say something about just quickly Richard Torres. I think we had enough of him fighting this type of opposition. Who the hell was his opponent? He looked terrible. He looked like an amateur. This other guy, not even an amateur. He looked like somebody who just started boxing. So yeah, it's time for Richard Torres to step up. But still, I think he has a bright future.
That's up to Top Rank. They're making a big deal every time Jared Anderson fights. They're creaming their pants. And meanwhile, they got a knockout machine in Torres. And like you said, they're matching him up still with some...
I agree. I think he's a good boxer. It's time to get him some better opposition.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about...
Super fast for a big guy. That's what makes him so... He's really got fast hands for a big guy.
Exactly, man.
Yeah,
he's
definitely. Yeah.
He's quick with those hands, and you could tell he's solid too. He's a cinder block in there. He's relatively short for a heavyweight, but he's a cinder block. So he might make up for that lack of height, compared to some of the fucking 6 feet 5 inch tall guys that are in the division. But yeah, he has to put him in there now. I guess a guy that can roll with the shots, a guy that's gonna really hit him back, try to take, because he does tend to jump in there a little bit. So put him in there with somebody that's going to make him think twice, and we'll see what happens. But that's another guy, Torres. Now, I was complaining about how they weren't giving Torres too much shine on Top Rank. Well, apparently he'd been injured. That's what somebody called in and said. So I haven't been able to verify that, but it would make sense about why Top Rank has sort of been neglecting him a little bit.
He was injured.
Well, there you go. So that confirms it. But
yes, he was.
Yeah, hopefully they start giving him more coverage on Top Rank. And about the Gary Antoine Russell thing, let's not forget he was also struggling mightily against an old Rances Barthélemy. And it's only going to get worse, man, if he's inactive. Because we've seen it now. We've seen it with the other Gary Russell, the way he was, and Jimmy pointed out, he injured his arm because of inactivity. Makes you frail. We've seen now Errol Spence inactivity, how that cost him. Wilder's probably going to cost him too. He fought once in 2021, once in 2022. Both of those were, no, excuse me, once in 2020, once in 2021. Both of those beatings. Once in 2022, it was less than a round, and he hasn't fought at all this year. And then you're going to put him in there as AJ? And if AJ wakes up, what do you think is going to happen? So, yeah, man, those are some inactivity. It's the great killer at this point. All right, the phone lines are open. We got a couple of phone calls here. Let's get to them. And then we'll get to Hrgovic. We haven't talked about him. 914, you're on the air. 914, what's on your mind?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. What's up?
Hello? Great. Hi there. It's essentially, I would like to talk about the Anthony Joshua fight, because from what I saw of that, there's no way Anthony Joshua can defeat Deontay Wilder at all. Joshua is incredibly... What did you say?
I said, oh.
Yeah. So Joshua is incredibly stiff. He's very, very stiff. He throws a 1-2 jab, and I don't entirely blame him, because one thing that I've actually noticed is that a lot of boxers who are defensively minded and skilled, they don't learn everything from their coach. Part of it is their experience. Mayweather is like that. Mayweather, Canelo, etc. Because if you compare their coaches, Roger, Mayweather, and Canelo's coach, I don't know what his name is, Eddie Reynoso, their other fighters are not as defensively minded as their star players. So even Joshua's trainers will find it hard to really tame him. However, Derek James is not a good trainer. What does Errol Spence, Charlo have in common? They get hit a lot. And the way that Derek James teaches them to essentially fight is to have a high guard, step inside, and to fight on the inside. Like, this is not really effective fighting at all. And if you're a heavyweight, you can't do that. Why? Because getting hit is extremely dangerous as a heavyweight fighter. It's not like a welterweight. A welterweight or somebody at the lower weights, you can get hit and you're not going to get knocked out. As a heavyweight, all it takes is one punch. So teaching that style is not... Everybody, like, typically, you will have people that don't understand boxing who watch a match and give a prescription that is wrong. Most people who saw the fight last night, they actually gave a prescription that was spot on and absolutely correct. Joshua, psychologically, is quite scared and restricted. He does not feel as if he's able to punch. He feels that there'll be something coming back because of the Andy Ruiz fight, and he thinks that there's a possibility that he could get knocked out. Psychologically, that has essentially broken him a bit. That restriction has held him and constrained the way that he fights. Deontay Wilder, even with the knockouts he's experienced, Deontay Wilder still goes for the knockout, even with everything that he's been through. So it shows the psychological makeup of Deontay Wilder compared to Anthony Joshua.
That's a great point there, caller. That's a great point, man. We'll see what happens. So they're saying the fight will probably happens in December. Joshua says he wants it, and he says he's ready to bash Wilder's head in, which I think that's sort of like a hate crime. If he would have said that Wilder is gay and then says, I want to bash his head in, that's gay bashing. He could have gotten in trouble there with the BBOC. But anyway, listen, caller, anything else you want to say before we move on?
Yeah. I would just like to say that anybody who is trained by Derek James needs to think long and hard about it, because I heard the... No, seriously, this is not a joke, because he is perceived as one of the best, etc., etc. If you don't have the founding principle upon which professional boxing is constructed, which is that you're supposed to hit and not get hit, not simply hit with... Okay, the one thing I'll give Derek James is that he teaches people how to throw power shots, for sure, definitely, because Charlo does it, Errol Spence does it. What they do is that they're able to turn over their punches and they move their hips very well compared to any other fighter that I've seen in their divisions. But his teaching of defensive technique is not as effective and impactful as it should be. So Joshua will have a hard time, unfortunately. But thank you for having me on the call. And the last thing I'll say is that I heard what the doctor 804 or something said, and I had observed some things too based on speech patterns. So boxing is an incredibly dangerous sport, and I think that kids that have any other option should think carefully about going into it because it is a brutal sport.
That's right. That's why we love it. All right, well, listen, caller. Great points. Call back next time, right, man? Take it easy out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, he said the prescription for Joshua, the prescription that he doled out was Ambien. Not only because he knocked out Helenius, but because the previous round, 6 rounds, that was if you want to go to sleep, watch those first 6 rounds, man. But anyway, at least he got the job done there with the knockout. We'll see what happens with Wilder. I got more questions to ask you, fellas, about that. Let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 416. 416, you're on the air. 416, what's on your mind?
Hey, BDA, Jimmy, Gonzalo, Bucho, what's going on, guys?
What's up, man?
So Rick Star here. In regards to, I guess we'll start off with Navarrete since he's on the main page. I was actually rooting for Valdez, and I was shocked that the beating that Valdez ensued on Valdez. It was a complete one-sided thrashing. And BDA, you stated that Vaquero had a scratch on him. He didn't have a single scratch, not a single blemish.
That's what I said.
This cat's like. He's a Mexican Terminator, fucking straight up. Like that was starting from, I said on another podcast, I was like, Errol Spence would message Oscar Valdez and said I got in a car wreck. What's your excuse? You'd be like. Yeah, straight up. It was a beating. But in regards to what Jimmy said and the previous caller, yes, Anthony Joshua is extremely tentative, but I think this win over that of Helenius and the knockout. I think the knockout, even though despite it being in the 7th round and a lot of the, as you quoted, the British fans booing, because essentially, a lot of people they're going to try to weigh it on a scale compared to Wilder's first round knockout, which was extremely suspect, okay? Because Wilder went in with his old sparring buddy. You don't think they had a little chit chat before the fight? And if you looked at that knockout, and I would urge Jimmy to go back and look at that knockout and compare that, how suspect that knockout was compared to last night or last afternoon. So I think AJ needed the rounds to lead up to a prospective Wilder fight. I think the knockout was good to bolster his self-confidence and or tentativeness that Jimmy had stated. So, that's that for that. And then Richard Torres, he moves fast. He has that kind of Mexican version of the Mike Tyson kind of feel. Maybe they're around almost the same height. They should put him in with someone who's ranked and whatnot. But I like his style in general. That this whole '90s porn star stash.
You like
thing,
that?
It works for him. Bringing back the frat boy to pro boxing, right? At least maybe we'll get some different viewers as opposed to more boxing analysts and aficionados as you gentlemen are.
I'll say this, Rick Star. I'll say this, man. I'll say this. I might be going a little bit too far, but I can break it down if people want to. I think that mustache is going to make him a star. And I'll leave it at that for the moment. All right, listen, Rick, so we got to move on here.
Well,
but yeah.
Just as Samson said, the strength is in his hair. That's the way
Exactly.
the chords are saying the strength is in his stash.
Exactly, yeah. That's what it is. I was going to say that a little bit. I mean, a little bit more complicated than that. But yeah, essentially, that's what it is. It's the mustache. The stash gives him power. It gave Hitler power. It gave Stalin power. And it's given Torres power. Let's just leave it at that. All right, well, listen,
Yeah,
Rick, so I think...
He beams up like He-Man.
There you go, exactly. All right, well, listen, Rick, so we got to move on here, but thank you for your call. Call back next time, right, man? Take it easy.
Later, Rick.
Peace out, boys.
All right, let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 631. 631, you're on the air. 631, what's on your mind? ...631, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't watch the Joshua fight because I heard Joshua and Helenius were fighting, and I thought I was about to see dudes fencing with their jabs for 12 rounds, and considering what people are saying, that's kind of how it was for most of the fight, so I'm glad I dodged that one. But I picked Valdez to beat Navarrete by knockout.
Ooh.
And I honestly think I mostly just overestimated Valdez's power and a bit of Navarrete's I guess his slickness, I guess would be the best way to define it. Because there were certain things he was doing that I found to be kind of out of just tricky for Valdez. Like sometimes when Valdez would get ready to just throw a punch, he wouldn't get so low below Valdez's trunk, but he would just dip his entire body off to the side, and Valdez wouldn't know how to get the angle to get a good punch off, which I found to be pretty impressive, just pretty smart from him. And he was just very intelligent in the fight. So I think he should definitely be on the pound for pound list. He displayed all the qualities of a pound for pound fighter, and he has a good signature win, I guess, now to put on his resume for 130 pounds.
30, yeah, exactly.
But,
I mean, listen, and there's some big fights to make in there as well. Real quick, who would you rather see him fight next? A guy like Cordina, Hector Luis Garcia, or Shaki Foster?
I think Cordina gives him the most problems because he's, a proven hard puncher, and he punches straight, which I don't really, I don't know from how many Navarrete opponents I've really seen that come from, where they're a straight counter puncher, where they put a lot of power on that counter. And I think that straight counter right that Cordina has could give Navarrete a lot of problems, especially if he's trying to lean back out from maybe an attack that he's gone into. But yeah, I don't really see anyone else. I think what's his name? Shaki Foster would have a good chance too, but I think he's kind of a bit passive at times when it comes to fighting. Sometimes he's just not throwing enough, and I think he'd probably lose that fight on points. But in terms of moving up, because I've already started to see people say maybe he should move up and fight Stevenson. I kind of want to watch the Vila fight again before I completely give my opinion on that. I still don't think I have him winning that if it were to happen. I guess realistically it would be maybe a year or two from now.
Yeah, man, because Navarrete just got to 130, so for him to jump now to 135, it's asking a little bit too much there. But anyway, listen, man, we got to move on here, but good call. Call back next time, all right? Take it easy out there.
All right.
All right, let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 619. 619, you're on the air. 619, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jose.
Oh, Jose, what's up, man?
Yeah, I just called just to give my take on the fights. Yeah, I agree with that caller who said that Helenius versus Wilder was fake. I look like Mike Tyson versus Frank Bruno, man. And as far as Navarrete versus Valdez, man, I get it that Valdez is shorter and has a shorter reach, man, but he relies on that left hook too much. He was going to try to catch him like he did Berchel, man, and he kind of looks like a one-trick pony, man. He's trying to fight too much like Canelo, man. He's not Canelo. And I'm surprised Eddie Reynoso didn't work on like a plan B, I think he was missing right there something from his corner. So anyways, that's my call, guys.
All right. Jose, keeping it nice, short and sweet. Shout out to Jose, and have a good day out there, right, man? Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Man, I'm watering a bunch of weed plants.
I don't want to ask, but all right, take it easy out there, Jose. Enjoy your weeding.
Like 5. All right, later.
Take it easy, man. He meant he was weeding out some plants from his garden. That's what I heard, and that's what I interpreted. So if anyone asks, that's my version. Guys, I wanted to ask you this on the panel. Because Bucho said, well, Joshua, if he fights more aggressive, he beats Wilder, and that's all there is to it. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but I understand his point. What do you guys think about that? In other words, what I'm asking is, can he replicate what Fury did to Wilder twice? Can Joshua do something similar, or maybe even surpass it?
I mean, he doesn't have a bad gas tank. The way he fought the second Usyk fight, and I know Usyk is a different style, but he showed. I'm talking about Anthony Joshua. He proved to have a decent gas tank. Now it's mechanical. Obviously, that's why they say he's robotic, because he's just such a big, muscular dude. But with that being said, when they call him robotic, he's got good punch mechanics when it comes to throwing like a 1-2. He's got a great uppercut. So if you combine that with the physicality and the gas tank that he showed against Usyk, you could come up with a good style where he wasn't fighting so much like he was yesterday.
So, but then that's the question then, is because, when you're walking Wilder down, you really just got to feint him so that he leans back, and you're making him work, essentially. He tires himself. So can Joshua do that? Because we've never actually seen, that's how he has to beat Wilder, but we've never actually seen Joshua do it. So my question is, can he do it?
That's a 50-50. Sorry, it's a hard thing to call, BDA.
Jimmy, what do you think?
I think because of Wild's inactivity, he's been out of the ring for 2 years, and he's coming off 2 knockouts, and his gas tank was horrible even in the second fight. The third fight with Fury, he was breathing like a guppy by the fucking third round. So I don't know. Yeah, I think Wilder. Chin is obviously suspect. It always has been. So he's got to not fall. He's just not that style. You know what I mean? Like he's got to get a better style.
So how would he do it against Wilder's? What I'm asking is, would he just put his hands up, bob and weave, and pressure Wilder? Because again, I've never seen Joshua do it.
Get out of distance. Stay out of distance. What you want to do is you want to, if you're out, get all the way out, but then get all the way in, right? Wilder lines it up so you just basically, after your jab, follow your body, follows in behind the jab. So you throw the jab, and after you throw it, your body comes in behind it. So you're in that grill. Because if you're in close, like Fury knew, that was one thing about Fury, get in close. You take his power away from him. You don't stay on the outside. That's for damn sure. That's the danger zone. The red zone.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
So you can get inside and crowd him. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That's what.
For me,
go ahead,
I was just gonna say, BD. For me, it's a hard thing to call because we really don't know. And this is gonna sound weird. What Deontay Wilder's real power is, because we saw King Kong Ortiz pushing Deontay Wilder back for many rounds, and some of the dudes that he knocked out, yes, it's the heavyweight division. You land a shot on a dude that's chinny, he's gonna go down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every right hand Deontay Wilder throws, he's gonna get everybody out of there. That's what I'm saying. If Anthony Joshua can deal with the punch, give him a couple rounds, he will beat him. Give him 3 rounds, Anthony Joshua will beat his ass.
Whoa! All right. Well, that's Gonzalo's early prediction right there for a fight that's not officially signed, but it looks like it might happen. So that's why I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it could happen, because AJ's never done that before. He's never fought that way, but that doesn't mean he can't. Especially against a guy that, when you're fighting a guy that that's how you have to beat him, and there's no other way around it. I think that's what AJ is going to show, but he really has to put it on him. And here's the other thing I want to say about AJ. If he gets dropped by Wilder, we've seen him get dropped hard against Klitschko. He came back and beat him. Couldn't do it against Andy Ruiz, But the point is, he can't get up. So if people think, well, Wilder, all he has to do is land that one right hand, that's it, he wins. It's not that simple. Wilder doesn't ice people with one shot, especially, well, not the top caliber guys that he fights. So it's an intriguing fight. I think it's going to make a lot of money, obviously. And even though it's not the top two guys in the world in the heavyweight division, but it would do very well, it would sell very well because they're two, conflicting personalities. They talk a lot, they're entertaining, or at least with Joshua's case, used to be entertaining. So it's going to be interesting one for sure. All right, let's go to a phone call here. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. Let's go to
But I have to try to figure that out.
323, you're on the air.
Don't worry about it.
323, you're on the air. All right, he's having a conversation in the back. Let's see what's going on. Well, should we snoop in and see what's going on with the conversation, or? I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm gonna hang up on him. I think it was Don Madrazos. Because I'm in conversation.
Yes, it was Don. It was him. 323 Los Angeles.
Hey, fellas, I'll be right back because I didn't get a chance to leave earlier. But you guys take over. Talk about. I don't know if you saw the Filip Hrgovic fight. He ended up beating a Australian, tougher than expected Australian guy. I think he stopped him in the 12th round. He was kind of looking a little bit shaky in the middle rounds. What did you think about him? Or if you want to talk about Chisora or whatever you guys want to talk about. Just giving you some subject pointers there. Be right back, fellas.
Well, that's going to be somebody else because I didn't see the fight.
Well, talk about whatever you want, but talk about something because I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw it in the distance. I mean, the dude is maybe a little overrated. I don't know what happened with his career, kind of stagnated. Filip Hrgovic, however you pronounce that last name. Where's he from? He's a Croatian dude, isn't he?
I believe so. I believe that's right.
No, Navarrete fight was entertaining, man. The Navarrete fight was entertaining. I ain't gonna get caught up on saying, okay, so is the footwork perfect? Does he still make a lot of mistakes? Because by now he's a proven fighter who's a three division world champion, who's had a lot of title defenses at 126. Now at 130, like you said, he fought Wilson, but he got a solid win now too. And it's open season on any of these 130 pounders. And now you could bring in fighters in the mix that are like before you didn't even like think about those names, like the bigger dudes, like the Cordina, even like the Tank Davis, like you said, if that guy would go down a Lomachenko, how would Lomachenko do against Navarrete? Right?
Right. I think he would give with his length, especially at this age. I think he'd give Lomachenko fits just because he's so hard. He's a hard guy to fight. And again, I think when people, including myself, if that's how it came across, like I say, his style or his footwork's wrong. Wrong it's interpretation, right? Wrong to you, it might not be wrong to me. My wrong might not be. It's wrong if it's working. Then how is it wrong, right? It's really not wrong if it's working. And I think he's shown over and over again that he's able to take what he's done. Every fighter has his own little niche that he does one thing a little different than a lot of people. He just does so many things different, and again, the conditioning. And another thing that's deceiving, I got to say about Navarrete is that uncle bod. You know what I mean? He's got a fucking body like your fucking uncle. I mean, no muscle tone on it, so it's deceiving. You don't think he's going to crack you as hard as he does, but he pushes those punches with his legs. And they hurt, you can tell. I mean, just look at the fucking Oscar's face.
Even like seasoned professionals like Timothy Bradley, who's watching him ringside, is in dismay because he said, because I was rewatching some of his fights, he says that Navarrete has the ability to correct his punches mid-flight. So like even guys like that don't quite can grasp the style. So when other people less experienced, like let's say for example myself, I'm looking, or others, and they can't believe that he's getting away with the things he's doing because they're gonna call it like a bad thing, the footwork and this or that. He's still beating these fighters in there. So if anybody got the answer to say how he's doing this wrong or not, like so textbook, well, why don't they expose him in the ring?
It's a great point. And here's the thing, though, about Navarrete, and I'm just speaking for myself, projecting maybe a little bit. I think the reason why a lot of people are hesitant still at this point to give Navarrete props is because of the unorthodox style is they've been burned before with a guy like Hamed. For a long time was a pound-for-pound guy. People said he was the only guy that was going to be able to beat him was Eric Morales, and even then a lot of people were picking Hamed to knock out Morales. And then what happened? Barrera steps in there, conventional style, keeps it simple, and outboxes the shit out of him. So I think a lot of people are expecting, wow, if a master boxer goes in there with Navarrete, they're going to exploit his deficiencies. But they don't understand that Navarrete is a master boxer himself. Very good control of the distance. You know, he jumps in, and then when he sees that the guy's going to try to smother him, he takes a little step back, and then boom, 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 continues firing combos. Great hand-eye coordination. That's a skill right there as well. So I think at this point it's quite clear that Navarrete can, even if you push him back, he'll make you miss. He won't outpoint you as easily because, like we said earlier, he has no jab. But then on top of that, when he comes forward, he pretty much does what he wants because he makes you think with a lot of things. So he is a boxer. He's a good boxer. He's unconventional, but he can fight going backward and he can fight going forward.
That's a great hand and eye coordination. So that has a lot to do with the feet. And if he's squaring up sometimes, he's in that position because he want to be able to like throw the two hands right up on you. He's not getting on the bladed stance where he's gonna throw the first hand from the front and then turn the shot over from the rear. That's a lot of pressure, and they give him the ability to cut the ring off too. Because when you're squared up, like Julio Cesar Chavez, for example, you can cut corners easier, right? You can trap a dude. So that dude got a lot of good qualities in regards to the foot, to the feet.
Exactly. Yep. There you go, man. All right.
Well, I think last night he showed that he's a great boxer. He won by unanimous decision. You know what I mean? Even without that jab, he actually won by just outboxing him. And I believe wholeheartedly, if he didn't hurt his hand, probably broke it. At least, if not, did a deep bruise by punching me in the top of the head. Or Valdez could have broke it by a punch because he was keeping it up on the side of his head. He could have caught a punch on his hand. But either way, if he wouldn't have hurt his hand, and he hurt it early, I think the 6th round or the 7th round. But about that round, too, I got to say, when Joe Tessitore, well, he's really curtailed his punches. He's only thrown up to this point. It was almost a minute and a half. 33 punches in this round. He ended up finishing the round with like 133 or 119 punches. So in the last minute, he went ballistic. That's the kind of shit you can't train for. That's crazy shit to do that.
Jimmy, he probably heard it when he busted up his orbital bone on bone. Right. Something had to give, right?
Yeah, I'm a little dubious about that when guys say, "Oh, I hurt my hand." I want to see proof because usually people say that after they don't perform as expected, and maybe Navarrete expected to stop Valdez, and since he didn't, well, let me blame my hand. But I don't know because I've seen Tank Davis say that.
Well, he was shaking it too, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know.
Like
but I'm saying,
shaking his right hand
but I'm saying is I want to see some
what you're saying.
Because I've seen Charlo, Tank Davis. They blame the wrist and the hand, and they never show proof of it. You know what I mean? So maybe you're right. The difference is he did shake his hand, and he did it too in. I forget which other fight he done that. I think it was against Dogbo. But anyway, he shook it. So he probably injured that right hand, which he's injured before as well. So. We'll see, but I want to see proof because otherwise I don't.
And I think it could have happened on a body shot. I think he caught his because of the high guard, his elbows up far in front of him. And when you go to throw to the body, you just bring your elbow down, and your elbow is the hardest bone in your body. And it's that's the one thing I always kept me from throwing body shots a lot of times is the fear of breaking my hand on an elbow because I've seen it happen so many times.
Yeah, that's gotta suck that right there, that type of injury. Let's go to the phone lines here real quick. Let's go to Don Maldazo, see if he's there. Don Maldazo, are you there?
Hey, what's going on, you guys?
Hey, I had to hang up on you. Yeah, I had to hang up on you because we could hear your conversation. And I heard something about the bodies in the crawl space and the lime. I said, okay, let me just hang up. And We won't incriminate him. But
yeah, I'm sorry about that. We're heading to the beach later, so a nice day. Anyway, that fight last night was very entertaining, but I kind of called it. I knew that Valdez has a chin. I didn't think it was going to be that lopsided. It was very entertaining, but since it was so lopsided, I don't really care to see a rematch. I don't think there's anything Valdez could do different, especially that high guard. Being able to be nimble and move around, he did it better when he had his hands down and he could dodge the punches, but if you're gonna have that high guard, you're gonna have to be able to switch your defense and your look.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he did him any favors. He was just trying to land that left hook, and man, Navarrete's got a chin, man. He got clocked, and he just kept going. Does anybody know if he actually broke his hand or what happened to his hand?
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. We don't know. I haven't seen any proof or evidence other than that he shook his hand and he said he hurt his hand, but I suspect he may have, because like Jimmy said, that's, he did shake the hand. It's not something he just made up afterwards. So we'll see, man. We'll see. He'd already, like I said earlier,
he did say it's in the corner too, Mr. B. I didn't mean to cut you off, but he said it to the trainer. The trainer asked him. And in fact, and he said it to Joe Testio as the guy. He said, well, he kind of hurt his hand punching him so hard in the head.
Yeah. Well, listen, on that note, does anybody know if Valdez broke his orbital bone? Because that was a gnarly, I mean, that looked bad. That looked horrible. And I don't remember a doctor examining him to stop the fight, but I think they should have stopped it in the 10th at least, because that eye was already getting closed, was shut. So.
Yeah, the 12th round was really just him on survival mode. And again, people are saying that he broke the orbital. I think there's reports that in the hospital they might have said that. I'm not sure, but Jimmy, did it look, and Gonzalo too, did it look like it was swelling resulting from a orbital injury or?
Yeah, it looked really bad. He looked like Rocky Dennis in there. Remember Rocky Dennis? A muscle. The elephant man.
Well, he was blowing his nose. I saw that at the end of the fight, and usually when you have a broken ankle, you don't start blowing your nose because you'll literally see it swell up even more. The air gets in there. You get air. Same thing when you break your nose. But yeah. I don't know. It could have just been massive tissue swelling from just the pounding those uppercuts, and those left hands. And again, it's just seething because it doesn't look like he's putting that much on him. And clearly, if you look at Valdez's face, those punches were no joke.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about the fight going into it, I knew. I mean, a lot of people said that there was going to be a knockout. I didn't think there was going to be any kind of knockout because I know I've seen Valdez get hit hard, and that kid has a chin, and maybe that's what gave him the confidence to get closer and to fight more in range inside, just relying on that chin also. But I don't know. I mean. To get schooled by Shakur Stevens is one thing. To get dominated by Navarrete is another. These are two different styles, and I don't know what they could work on in the gym to make it different. But I'm not excited to. I don't think I'm going to be excited to see Valdez do anything else. I mean that kind of made it done for me. I don't know about you guys, but think about it. There's two different styles: a pure boxer and a boxer puncher. So. These are two different styles, and I get it. I know Navarrete is awkward. He kept clubbing him with awkward shots. His angles were a little awkward. His timing, his rhythm was a little awkward too. But there's got to be an adjustment, and there was just no adjustment. I think I gave Valdez 3 rounds, maybe 5, 6, maybe 8. I don't know, but it was just I didn't think it was going to be that one-sided. As far as the Joshua thing is concerned, you know what? I think he just should have stayed with Robert Garcia, or I don't know. He looked better. The best he's ever looked so far was in that second fight with Usyk, and I'm gonna stand by that because I didn't see any kind of improvement. I didn't see. I don't know. What do you guys? I copped on. I didn't really get to hear what you guys had to say about Joshua's performance, but is anybody going to be excited to see him do a next big fight? Do you guys think Wilder's just going to take him out?
Well, long story short, what we were saying was that he's probably going to fight much different against Wilder. But he's trying to be something he's not in there. And we can appreciate the fact he's trying to improve on his skills, but he's trying to be something he's not. He's got to play up to his strengths. It's almost like saying Usyk. Oh, well, Usyk, it's almost if Usyk says, well, I'm winning because of my speed and not my size. So let me start going out there and banging it out with people and try to push them back and slug it out. That's not him. You play to your strengths. And Joshua's strength in large part is his size. And he has to understand that.
Yeah.
He's not Vladimir Klitschko. He's not Alexander Usyk. Anyway, listen, Dolmadazos, man, we got to move on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of... all right, you guys. Have a good night, man. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
All right.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for getting back to me. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy out, Dolmadazos. He's going to the beach, he said. I don't know if that's code word for burying the bodies, but hopefully it is going to the beach. All right, let's go to the phone.
I felt a little Mexican bias there, though. I felt like he was give a little shade on the Mexican people, even though he's Mexican. No, when he said, it's not like he's Shakur Stevenson. That's why I went, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, honestly, as a fighter, I would rather fight fucking Shakur Stevenson because there's only one thing you got to get past, his blistering jab, inaccurate jab. With Navarrete, there's so much shit going on. His footwork, like Gonzalez said it the best, his feet and his arms are doing two separate things. Like his footwork are doing something that it should match, and it's just almost impossible to get his timing, his rhythm down. So yes.
No, Jimmy, you know what I noticed because I was rewatching some of his fights. What he does, I rewatched the Valdez. He does a half shuffle to get his feet in position. Like Muhammad Ali, he's not doing a full shuffle. Well, he's straddling the legs back and forth, but he don't do a half shuffle to correct his footwork. So that dude, he's incredibly skilled, man.
Yep. And he pushes. It's key. Even though his feet are close together, he's pushing up with his legs. Like, same thing I said all the time. Even hitting a home run in baseball, man, it's stepping into the pitch. It's using your legs. He's driving those punches. So he keeps his arms almost in that hook position, and he uses his legs and his lower back to drive them up into your face. So it doesn't look like he's putting much on it. Throw in the fact that he's got an ankle bod, and it just, you don't expect him to hit like that.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'd rather face Shakur Stevenson too, and not that because it's easy to beat him, because he's very elusive and he's got very quick hands, which intimidates some fighters. But, just think about it this way. He said he wanted to back Valdez up. He didn't want to run against him. And, the worst he did to Valdez was he scratched him up a little bit, because Valdez does have that high guard, and when you punch a guy that way, he's going to scratch himself with his own laces. He couldn't really put damage, and even the knockdown against Valdez, it was when they were replaying it on ESPN before the fight. They show when Valdez is already going down, and he took that little shot that really put him on his ass. But you could tell that he was already tripping, so that's why they didn't show the full sequence of how he went down. So then you look at Navarrete, like you said, he's gonna hurt. It's gonna be one long round against this dude. So that's the thing right there. That I'd rather fight Valdez as well. Let's go to the phone lines here. Let's go to the phone lines. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like. It will help us out. 210, you're on the air. 210. What's on your mind?
Hey, that was weird. What's up, guys?
Who is this?
Oh, it's Anthony, Texas.
Anthony from Texas. Anthony, what's up, man?
Not much. I didn't know what y'all were talking about. There was this weird hold music on while I called in, listening in. Waiting for my turn. It was just like I couldn't hear the show. It was just like, when somebody puts you on hold, it has the music going.
Yeah, I don't know why. That's a new thing now with the fuck. I mean, I hope I'll see if I can change it. But yes, what's on your mind, man?
No, I was listening to the show. I know I haven't watched the Navarrete fight yet. I'm about to watch it right now, but I just kind of want to change it up. I don't know if y'all talked about the Terrence Crawford weekend. Did y'all see that?
The Terrence Crawford weekend?
Yeah, the victory parade.
I mean, what about it?
Well, no, I mean, there's no dead horse I'd rather beat over and over and over than that win. You know what I mean? Like, it was it was a sweet victory, like because of the LDBC thing, the whole slander for Crawford for the 5 years. The lies and just the shenanigans going on. But I thought it was hilarious, man. I didn't know if y'all saw it, but he came out. He had a parade, and he was instead of a float, he was on a boat, and he had fishing gear on. They had fishing poles. Shakur Stevenson was there holding net. I think it was sweet, man. I think it's just this is like the longest victory lap, and I'm pretty glad it's happening like that, you know. But
Mr. BD, I know it was a pretty crazy celebration. About as big as I've ever seen a town give a champion. He had the mayor, governor, both state senators. They sold him a huge plot of land to build a new gym for $1. The state's donating it to him. I mean, they really, really put it on nice for him. So good for him.
It's right. It's the property right next to his gym. That was pretty cool. They gave him that land for $1. But it shows. Like I saw pictures on Twitter, and if you zoom in on the crowd, it's like real boxing fans, man. You see elderly people, you see white people, you see black people, you see Hispanics, you see country folk. You know what I mean? People you wouldn't think are like boxing fans, man. So it was real cool. His fan base is real diverse, and it's a real community as far as like supporting Bud, and that's the way boxing is supposed to be. So that was real good to see. I know Michelle Rosado tweeted out a picture like that, saying he has the most diverse fan base in boxing, and yeah, that's cool, man. It kind of brings people together. I'm glad to see that they celebrated, but I don't know. We'll see what goes next. But now I'm about to watch the fight, y'all. I just was tuning in. Wanted to say what's up to y'all. I finally figured out how to use Discord.
Oh, good.
So I was on there on Friday.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing being on our Discord. Could go both ways, but hopefully you enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. It was pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah, that's Friday for you. Hey, by the way, Bucho wasn't drinking that day. I know Pete was kidding about that Bucho gets Bucho leaves, and then when he comes back, he's like, hold on. He's not, as far as I know, he wasn't drinking during the show. But anyway, man, Anthony, thank you for your call, man.
That's cool. Hey, I'm going to have a beer.
Yeah,
well, I just want to say one more thing because I'm about to watch the fight. It's about to come on. I'm watching this Top Rank telecast, right? And I know people say you shouldn't be fans of promoters, but, man, I disagree, bro. Like, I grew up on Top Rank Boxing. I mean, going to their events and watching them, the best combination in boxing was them and HBO together because they make their fighters fight. They put on trilogies. I mean, I think Gotti Ward was Top Rank. Barrera Morales started on Top Rank. I mean, like the events, just even physically being there, the events are dressed right. They always get the best talent. I'm watching these prospects. I'm like, man, they always got the best guys. And they know where to put them. They don't put them like the PBC did, and they're putting them in areas where it's really hard to sell. You know what I mean? I was in San Antonio, and they had a bunch of fighters from the East Coast, like African-American fighters in a Mexican city, while Barrios is getting, fighting in an empty ballroom in New Jersey. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make any sense. So I like Top Rank, man. I think Top Rank is the cream of the crop, and you know what I mean? I can't stand the PBC's way of doing things, but, man, I grew up on Top Rank. They always put on the best events, the best fights. They make their fighters fight. They develop them right. They find the right fighters. It's just, they're the best, man. Like, so I just wanted to throw that out there. But, yeah, y'all have a good Sunday, man.
Yeah, you too, Anthony. Thank you for your call, man. Take it easy out there.
Well, to Anthony's point, PBC head-to-head against Top Rank is 4-22 now. 4 wins, 22 losses. So it's kind of funny. But to his point about the mixed crowd, that didn't go unnoticed, by the way. One of the tweets that was getting ratioed was, typical Bud fans, a bunch of white redneck racists and black immigrants, because no real ones are fans of Bud.
That sounds about right to me.
Okay.
By the way,
there was another one. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, this real quick. This is a classic one too. The nonstop anti-PBC theory bullshit is exactly what we would have been better if Inoue and Bud had lost. Now, as opposed to appreciating good boxing, we have to endure the theory after theory about the PBC. So just think about what he's saying. It would have been better because we endure better. Well, if it was better boxing, why are arguably your two best champions? Spence and Fulton got thrashed. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of funny.
Let's go to the phone call here. Let's go to... Hold on, where is it? I'm trying because now there's a music. Apparently, the callers can't hear us while they're on hold, so we got to get to them quicker. 301, you're on the air. 301, what's on your mind? I can hear myself in the background.
Sorry for that.
No
I
problem.
just had to finish my incantation to ward off the demons from your hellish elevator music. What was that song you're playing? Is that like the swan song of the lizard people?
I don't even know what it is because it's a new Block Talk thing, and I'm trying to find out now how to change it. But yeah, it's apparently people are complaining about it because they can't hear what. Usually, when you're on hold, you can hear what we're saying, so you get a better understanding of what's going on in the show. Now you can't even hear anything. Apparently, it's a fucking Tchaikovsky song or something. But yeah, go ahead, man. What's up?
Yeah. It's okay. I only listen to my own opinion on this show anyway. So, yeah, I'm not missing out. What was I going to say? Yeah, I wanted to. I think last night was rather like a tale of two trainers and like a tale of two overrated trainers. You know, I've noticed this with Valdez before in the Stevenson fight that he doesn't capitalize on his advantages. Whatever Reynoso did to him made him too much of like a sit and wait and kind of counter guy. Whereas I feel like all of his success against Navarrete was due to his jab. And the thing with the Burchell fight, I don't know if he was working with Reynoso then or not, but I think that was one of the early fights he had with him, where he still had vestiges of his old style. That jab was like one of the only things that was landing. I gave Valdez like 2 or 3 rounds. But I still feel like he won those rounds pretty decisively. So he could have capitalized that advantage and put some pressure on Navarrete because he doesn't fight well moving back. Right? He likes to pivot around and then lunge at you when he's at distance. And Valdez shouldn't have been sitting because that's what was giving him the opportunity to just jump in on him. Like Valdez was still athletic enough. I feel like he had the speed advantage. He just wasn't using it. I feel like the same thing happened in the Stevenson fight. So I don't know. I don't really like this like Reynoso style of fighting. It only really works when you have a ton of power and a ton of speed. The guy like Canelo, and even when you look at Canelo's like best performance, it was when he was right in the pocket with the guy, like when he fought Triple G a second time or when he fought Jacobs. So I don't really get the whole sit on the back foot like that. So I just don't like what he's done with these fighters. He's made them very complacent, I guess, in other words, what I'm saying.
Well, there you go, man. I mean, that's what it seems. I mean, the proof's in the pudding, and it's been happening quite often with him now. So, I mean, we'll see if he can maybe he gets lucky with Charlo against Canelo in a month from now. Anyway, listen, man, anything else you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Derek James, like a second trainer. I mean, this version of Joshua, like, I've seen a steady decline since the first Usyk fight, in my opinion. Like, his balance is just completely gone. Like, he can't take a lateral step. I don't know if that's his mentality, timidity, but he looks extremely heavy in there, so he wasn't firing his jab well. He just seemed like he couldn't transfer his weight whatsoever. So he didn't look the dynamic fighter he was before. Like, remember when he beat Povetkin? I guess a very unoverlooked victory he had. Because Povetkin was putting it on him in the early few rounds. I think he won like 3-4 rounds. And then Joshua came out, put it on him, and knocked him on a 6th.
That's right. Yeah, that version is seems like a distant memory now, man. But anyway, listen, we got to move on here. Right. But thank you for your call, and call back next time, right, man?
All right.
All right, take it easy out there. Yeah, we got to... I don't want to keep people waiting too much if they can't hear us. 832, do me a favor. Could you hear what we were saying, or were you hearing music while you were on hold?
I was hearing music.
Fuck. All right. I'm trying to fix that for some reason. I don't know. It's a Block Talk thing. It's the program we're using. But anyway, go ahead, 832. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mr. Grandpa. This is Elian Rodriguez from the Discord.
Grandpa. What's up, Elian?
And I wanted to say, Navarrete just fucked the lip up. And I think a lot of people maybe were favoring Valdez.
because of they underestimate Navarrete's defense. And just like Gonzalo had pointed out on the past episode, Navarrete has said before that his favorite fighter is Manny Pacquiao, and to some resemblance, you can kind of see the style that he takes from Manny Pacquiao. I mean, obviously he doesn't have the speed, but his defense is very underrated. And there's a lot of people who were favoring Valdez were choosing him because of that, because they thought, Navarrete is just a wild puncher and he just punches without thinking. But a lot of people just underrate him a lot. And I think his performance here really showed what kind of a fighter he is, a 3-division champion, to just demolish Shakur's best win. And I think when you combine the Valdez, ever since he got knocked down by Lopez, he has more reserved kind of style like Canelo. He tries to be like a little bit like Canelo, but he just doesn't work for him. He used to be a lot better whenever he used to throw caution to the wind and swing for the fences. Because, at this point, he's just a very obvious fighter, and Navarrete took advantage of that. And he made himself look good. You could see him bending, moving backwards. I mean, the commentators were full of shit, but a lot of people who were favoring Valdez, like I said, were choosing him for that reason. And I think he showed a lot of people what he can do and how he can become one of the greats. I mean, he's just 28 years old. If this guy goes up to 135 and beats Loma or Shakur, about a 4-division weight champ who just beat one of the quote-unquote ESPN's pound for pound list. So I think ESPN, especially Tim Bradley, fucking bitch, who was biased against him, kind of had to swallow a hard pill there, and so did some other fans.
Yeah, that's what people were saying, man, that there was some bias there from Tim Bradley, which is expected. I mean, we've talked about it before on this show, and other people have mentioned it too, so it's unsurprising, to say the least. Anyway, listen, man, Elian, are you still in Mexico right now, or are you...
Yeah, I'm still in Mexico.
There you go, yeah. I don't know, what happened with the tooth thing that you said? Did you just... did you eat some bad shrimp or something? Or what the fuck?
Okay, wisdom tooth surgery.
Ah, yeah. That's gotta suck during vacation time. Hope you're doing better now, though.
I want to say one last thing. If Navarrete fights Shakur or Haney or Tank, I honestly can see him winning. And I mean, this guy is 12-0 in championship fights with 9 knockouts in them. He's been an underdog against Dogbo, against Navarrete, and his caliber of fights that he's had is way better than these Shakurs and these Haneys, whose best fights are against the George Cambosos or Jorge Linares. I think he's a world-class fighter, and it's just 28 years old. He has a lot left to show.
There you go, man. There you go. All right, well, listen, man. We got to move on here, but thank you for your call. Call back next time, right, man? Take it easy out there.
Yeah.
All right. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. So go to 573. 573, you're on the air. 573, what's on your mind?
Hi, BDA. Waiting for a long time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Suvlaki guy. What's up, man? We can hear you, man. What's up?
What's up? So, what are we talking about today? We must talk about Joshua. I think Joshua against Helenius. What I think about the fight, I think it was certainly there are some things that got better in Joshua's games with Terry James, but I still don't see him beating Wilder.
Uh-huh. You still don't see him
beating Wilder? He gets knocked out.
What's going on in the background, though? I'm a little unnerved, but there's a beeping in the background. Sounds like something's about to explode. What's going on there? Just ease my mind a little bit and tell me it's a phone or something.
That's...
It sounds like a medical machine.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sounded like the wheel on Wheel of Fortune.
You hear me better now?
We can, yeah. We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Yeah, I think it's the earphones or something like that. But what I was saying that I don't see Joshua beating Wilder. Never.
Oh.
He got a bit better with Derrick James, but remember, Helenius came from a fight 6 days ago. So it wasn't like a big win for him. I don't see him like, he was celebrating and all that. Fuck off.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm still listen. Just to recap what we said on the panel. If he fights Wilder and gives him time and distance, it's pretty much donezo for him. He has to put Wilder on the back foot and keep him on the ropes and keep him leaning back and keep him scared and frightened and cold. Otherwise, it could get ugly for him. But anyway, listen, man, 573, man, we got to move on here.
Yeah,
but yes, go ahead.
No, I want to say about this Valdez and Navarrete. Well, as you said before, it wasn't an all-out war like they wanted to make it look. I think it was very one-sided. I think Valdez had a horrible corner this time. And it could have cost him his eye. The fight should have been over by round 10. But they kept going. That's very dangerous, I think.
There you go, man. There you go. Well, listen, man, we got to move on here. Thank you for your call. Call back next time, all right? Take it easy out there.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You too, man. You too. If you're going to cut the cable, cut the red one, not the blue one. All right, let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 470. 470, you're in the air. 470, what's on your mind?
What's up? Can you hear me, bro?
Oh, Never Sobers. What's up?
What's up, yo? First off, I want to say, is that banger you got, while we're waiting on the phone line, is that in the YouTube library? So I can use that on my next highlight video?
I mean, I don't even know what it is. People are telling me it sounds like some fucking Nutcracker song, music or something. I don't know what it is.
It's a hit, bro. It's a hit. I don't know what they're talking about. It's a hit. But, well, you guys talking about the fights from yesterday, right?
Yes.
So I think with Valdez and Navarrete, I think it's a little bit closer than everyone's saying. They're saying it was a real beatdown. I think it's because I think that first exchange in the first 5 seconds of the fight, Navarrete came right at Oscar. He hit him with like a 4-piece, I think. I think he damaged his eye with that exchange because I'm not sure, maybe I'm tripping, but I feel like at the end of the first round, I saw like a purple mark, the mouse under his eye. And I just thought like, damn, bro, already? And I think he got him real early with that. He injured him real early. And I think if Navarrete hadn't hurt his hand in the 6th, I think he dropped 3 rounds right after that because he hurt his hand and he was suffering in the corner. He didn't want to say nothing at first, but like after 2 rounds, he was telling his coach out loud, like, my hand hurts. And he wasn't trying to say that at first. They were trying to whisper in each other's ears about it. And I think that had a big impact on the fight because I think if he hadn't done that, he might have stopped. Valdez, but Valdez showed he's a tough dude. He fought basically 12 rounds with a broken orbital. Not many people can do that. Off the top of my head, I think Inoue did it, and I can't remember who else. Most dudes, they'll just drop 10 and quit, and there's no shame in that, right? So he's a pretty tough dude, but I think he showed his age because Navarrete was giving him the shots to set up and counter. I've seen Valdez throwing shots when he shouldn't, and I seen him holding back when he should have. Like when he basically had the whole motion, all he had to do was throw the punch, and he would hold back. And I think that's that age showing itself a little bit. His reflexes going. And he's just too small for 130. I don't know who he's gonna fight next. I would like to see Navarrete fight O'Shaquie Foster next. I think he put some good work on him, and that'd be another belt.
Yeah, see, that's the difference. That's the difference between Navarrete and Ray Vargas. Ray Vargas he's not a come forward guy. He's a counterpuncher. So as soon as he had a guy that wasn't playing his game, he didn't know what the fuck to do. Navarrete, you back up, that's what he wants. And he's got a better variety of attack than Ray Vargas, who's essentially just a hooker too, like Valdez. So yeah, man, that would be. I don't know if it happens though with the PBC top rank thing, but We'll see what happens, man. By the way, Never Sobers, I wanted to get Gonzalo in here. But was
Go
that?
ahead.
I wanted to get Gonzalo in here.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Vito.
I wanted to get Gonzalo in here, but he's not here. So I guess we'll do the round 2 next time.
Oh shit! It's all good, bro.
No, but listen. It came out wrong when I was talking because I had a lot of things to get to, so I didn't finish my thought. I wasn't blaming you for what happened on Rapids, but that's that's all. Listen,
he knew what was going to happen. He should never even jumped on the panel.
But I mean, you knew what was going to happen too, man. You said it too before, man. You said, "Hey, I'm going to jump on the panel and I'm going to make it spicy." Is what essentially happened. But with Gonzalo, when it's the guns mode, when it's the guns, his alter ego, you can't go at him the same way you normally do with somebody else because it just feeds into his energy. So it's like Navarrete. You start trading with him, he's gonna get you. So it's the same thing with Gonzalo. I don't know what the answer is.
You're on. Hey, you're on here. No more sober. I just sent you a message, man. I apologize, bro.
Yeah, it's all fool. No, by the way, hey fool, it's all jokes, fool. It's nothing I take serious, bro.
Well, there you go, man. See, that's the right approach right there. It's all banter here on Discord for the most part. But what was I gonna say? Hey, what about Joe Cordina? Everyone's talking about Oshaki Foster.
I haven't seen much of Joe Cordina, so I wouldn't know how Navarrete matches up with him. But for me, I think it's hard for anybody to fuck with Navarrete at 130 because this guy Oshaki, it's his long ass arms, bro. And I see guys who like to box, they like to move. I'd say it's an American thing. The way they matchmake, they usually are taller and longer than their opponents. So they like to go straight back and align and lean back. And that works against smaller people. And I feel like that's an American mechanic issue that they teach Americans to do that, like it's a reflex thing. Mm-hmm. And someone like Navarrete, they can just step with you. And his arms are longer than yours, so he'll follow you right out through the front door, so he'll catch guys like Oshaki and this fool Rarity was putting someone like Anthony Bell. I can't remember the dude's name. Like another slick dude that with 3 knockouts that he thinks can outbox Navarrete. That whole leaning back shit from short guys, that doesn't work with dudes that are your height and they have longer arms than you.
That's a good point.
So I would like to see that just to see the style clash.
That's a good point on Never Sobers because people just don't give Navarrete style and people like him credit. It's for them being on the back foot, throwing one shot at a time, essentially the ass style, the American slick style. That type of style, they respect it a lot. They think it's super hard to do. Whereas a guy like Navarrete, who's actively looking to make the fight and actually landing, 300 shots and throwing 1,000 and landing clean, for some reason they don't respect that. They look at that as rudimentary, primitive. They want to see the pot shotting, the clinching, shaking the ass, talking shit, as if they're really putting a beating on the guy. Meanwhile, they're just pot shotting and landing one shot at a time. They seem to really enjoy that, and they don't give any respect to the guy who comes forward, makes the fight happen with skill, with defense. But it is what it is, man. I mean, we're not going to sit here.
Well, Mr. BDA, the reason that style was never popular for decades growing up, it really wasn't. If you look back, I mean, there was slick fighters, but they came forward. Like Muhammad Ali was considered slick, but he was very offensive-minded. This whole new style type of... You wouldn't have won fights because they scored fights more correctly back then. Ring generalship, pushing the pace. That was a big in the scoring. If you sit back and you just let the fight come to you, you wouldn't win fights that way. So, yeah, that's just my experience.
Piggyback off of Jimmy real quick. Even guys like Pernod Whitaker, even if he wouldn't come forward, he'd control the action with the show versus the fight. And guys aren't even doing that anymore. So they're just the ones that are just sitting back and just kind of waiting for the fight to come to them. They get outworked, and sometimes they're still winning the fight. Exactly.
There you go, man. So in other words, if you can't outbox the other guy, what's your plan B? Can you knock him out? Can you come forward? Can you make the fight happen? A lot of these guys can't, and people buy the propaganda that because they fight off the back foot, they must be complete fighters because they're fighting off the back foot because they want to. No, it's because that they don't know how to do anything else. But anyway, Never Sobers, man. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Anthony Joshua fight because I remember I called in before when Helenius fought Wilder, and I remember saying this. I was like, anybody who thought that knockout was fake is retarded. And now that I've seen that knockout with Joshua, this guy Helenius, he knows how to sell that shit, bro. I feel like he was waiting. I feel like he was waiting to take a clean shot so he can stiffen up his body and fall over like that. You know, and then I saw after I saw the knockout with Joshua, and I was like, man, I was like, damn, this fool really got me with that Wilder fight. I'm really, I'm positive he took a dive both fights. You know, I just thought he had a little more, like a little more serious, a little more of a serious mindset when he fought Wilder, and I thought it was more legit when he got dropped. He sold that shit. And Anthony Joshua, he looked like he just lost his virginity the way he acted after he got that knockout. He really needed that confidence booster. He shot to shit. You know, the next guy who's actually gets in the ring with him, who's going to hit him back, is going to take him out. You know, I hope Andy gets a shot. That'd be a good trilogy, and it'd be a good ending to his career.
That's the way it seems like, man. It seems he's not in a good place mentally, but hopefully he makes up for it in the next fight, because I'm tired of seeing him try to beat Vladimir Klitschko. All right, Never Solvers, man. Thank you for your call, man, and talk to you later.
Oh, yeah. I'm sold on Navarrete, fool. He's good, bro. Yeah, take it easy.
Good. All right, take it easy, man.
Shout out to Never Sober, man. He's a cool dude.
Absolutely.
I kind of feel bad, but anyhow.
Well, the Guns, listen. Hopefully, it's a lesson for you, Guns. You're much better when you're not drinking, man. Let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to 979. 979, you're on the air. 979, what's on your mind?
Hello?
Yes, 979, you're on the air.
What's up? This is Bruce from Houston. It's on BDA now.
What's up, Bruce?
So we're recapping the weekend of fights. I'll talk about the Valdez Navarrete fight. I thought Valdez was gonna win, barely win, but man, Navarrete, dude, he I'm not trying to compare him to this guy I'm about to talk about, but he kind of reminds me of that mentality that Salvador Sanchez had. You know what I mean? Where it doesn't matter how good you're doing against him, he's always gonna just fucking do a little bit better than you, and it just destroys guys' mentalities and shit. And now that's it, man. He just keeps throwing punches at you, 1,000 fucking punches a fight. I don't know who can stop this guy. And he got iron chin. He didn't even look like he fought Valdez. Valdez looked like he went through a car accident. But yeah, I think he should unify, but Top Rank doesn't have any other belts at 130, so he's kind of just shit out of luck, in my opinion. But yeah, great fight.
Yeah, that's a good point about
and, that's all I say about that fight.
That's a good point about the Salvador Sanchez. Navarrete. You know what I like about Navarrete? He takes a shot and then he comes back with 3. He doesn't let the other guy steal the play, and that's a very good quality to have. If you want to be at the top of the game in boxing. So that's a good point right there, man. Anything else you want to say, man?
Yeah, I want to talk about the AJ. Man, I think AJ just completely, or not, AJ got it wrong for picking Derek James as a trainer, but at the same time, Derek James, I don't think he really understands what kind of fighter AJ is. AJ's type of guy, he goes in there, he's kind of like Wilder, but has proper boxing techniques and footwork. He goes in there and fucking starches you like a heavyweight would. But Derek James, if you notice, this past year, every Derek James fighter kind of fights the same. If you notice it, they always stand in mid-range, get their head on the line, and then throw a rear, a hook or a jab or something, and get off the line. And it's just it's really simple. And I don't think Derek James is taking advantage of all of the attributes that AJ has. And if he fights like that against Wilder, man, he's gonna get knocked out.
Oh,
you can't he doesn't have the footwork or the head movement to constantly keep somebody guessing in front of him. Dude, Helenius was landing clean jabs. He busted his nose up with a clean jab. He was timing it with right hand. I'm sorry, but any top heavyweight would probably beat AJ in a boxing match like that.
Interesting.
Maybe just get AJ with catch on the clean and get an easy, lucky KO, but I don't see him beating any of the top 3 guys. right now.
Well,
So, like
we shall
Wilder,
see, man.
Usyk,
Yeah, we
and
shall
Fury.
see that the fight is probably taking place in December. So we might get one final big fight in the fall, because right now it looks like after Canelo, there's not much in terms of big mainstream fights. So we'll see, man. Well, listen, 979, man, we got to move on here. But shout out to you. Thank you for calling, and call back next time, right, man? Take it easy out there.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to get back to that AJ Waller thing, because he actually brought up the question better than I had earlier. But before that, shout out to the Boxing Prophet above all boxing prophets for his contribution to the Super Chat. He says, chat and panel, where do you rank Usyk on the pound for pound list? Now, you will recall that we had a pound for pound episode. What was it? The week after Crawford Spence. And a lot of people still have Usyk top 3. I'm just curious, where do you guys have him?
Solid top 3. I've got him number 2 myself behind, possibly number 3 behind Bud after Bud's performance. But I've definitely got anyway number 1, and then it's hard not to put Bud number 2 after that performance, even though Spence is slightly shut. So he's got to be in the top 3. But he hadn't fought yet, so with the risk comes the reward. They've been promoted, and he's been downgraded, not because of his ability, but his activity.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it right there. Anyone else want to go with that one?
I'd say 3. I'd probably have him at number 3 or 2, because I got with Crawford and Inoue, it's 1A, 1B. I put them both at the same. For me, I can't even separate them. I think they're both deserving of being boxing's pound for pound right now.
And so then whenever you have it like that, when you have a 1A and 1B, the next person is number 3. You and I have the same ranking. I don't know who you have first, Jimmy, but I think we have it the same interchangeably between the first 2. But he has to be number 3 based off of the fact that there are 2 people ahead of him.
Well, I'll say this, man. It's all about timing. It's about what have you done for me lately. So the fact that Crawford just had that Spence fight and Usyk hasn't fought since last August. And then on top of that, it's not going to be easy against Dubois. People tend to now overrate Usyk about how easy he makes it look. He makes it look relatively easy because he's very, very good. But he's fighting guys that are 6'6", 6'7". You should also see some of the monsters he's sparring. I mean, for most people that's big. For me, it's not. Those guys aren't big at all. But for most people, I mean, people don't understand how much it actually takes out of you to be training and sparring these guys on top of that. And then you got to actually fight one. I mean, it's a tall order. No pun intended. But all that to say that I was actually more impressed. I'm still more impressed with what Usyk did against Joshua. I think that was a bigger accomplishment than what Crawford did to Spence. Not downgrading Crawford's performance, but I'm saying is if you really had to pick which one was more impressive, I slightly with Usyk because of the size factors and all that. But don't get me wrong, what Crawford did to Spence, I picked Crawford to win, but I did not expect it to be as easy as it was from the get-go. That was a Fury Wilder-like type performance where it started off badly for the loser and it just got worse from there. It wasn't going to get any better. What else was I going to say? Oh, yes, another super chat here from TFM. Shout out to TFM. And he says, Navarrete versus Luis Alberto El Venado Lopez. Who wins? That's an interesting question. I asked that same thing last night on What Rapids. Guys, what do you think about that? If they were to work it out, catch weight, or maybe if Navarrete could still make 126, whatever, how would you see him versus El Venado Lopez?
That's an interesting proposition right there. That's an interesting fight because you got to think that Venado Lopez is also got great feet. He used to play soccer, so he's athletic. He will jump in too. And jumping in is not good all the time because obviously you can get caught if you get reckless. But I would say Navarrete's at 130 now. Catch weight, I would favor Navarrete because he's got the length. And we saw with Warrington, he's a great fighter in my opinion, but we saw when you get physical with him, okay, he's got a limit. He's got a limit too. So I would just favor Navarrete.
Oh, there you go, man. I mean, they've sparred, right? I know Navarrete sparred Lara. There's footage of that, but I don't know if he's ever sparred El Venado.
I'm not sure, but maybe because back in the day, Mauricio Lara and Navarrete are from the capital of Mexico, so they're closer to each other. This guy's over here in Mexicali. But now that Navarrete is training in Tijuana, maybe.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know who I'd pick. And I'd go with Navarrete because I just think he's a little bit more complete. But Lopez, man, fucking unorthodox style himself. And on top of that, he hits very hard. I would pick Navarrete. But again, wouldn't be all that confident in that pick. Shout out to Rafael Garza for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, anybody else notice that Canelo isn't fighting on Mexican Independence Day weekend? Did he sell out? I ain't buying the fight. He says, I ain't buying the fight because he's not fighting on the Mexican Independence Week. Yeah, did they ever mention why he's not fighting on the Mexican Independence weekend? Usually that's the go-to move.
I think they bought the was the T-Mobile. I think it's already taken for a UFC event. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe because the 16th falls on Saturday. That's perfect. You know, for once it actually falls on the Saturday, and the year that it falls on Saturday, they decide not to fucking do it. That hold a fight on Mexican Independence Day weekend. But listen, I think it's a little overrated to hold fights on the eve or the weekend or whatever of a national holiday. It's just the fight's the fight. It's gonna be good. So shout out to Rafael Garza.
I think BDA, the reason for that is because a lot of people go on 3-day or 4-day weekends and they travel. So there's a lot more people in Vegas and they make a lot more money.
Well, that makes sense there. That makes sense. That I stand corrected. What was I gonna say here? So we talked about Gary Antoine Russell, the inactivity. We talked about AJ. Talked about Navarrete. Filip Hrgović. I thought he lost the Zhang fight, but he actually looked better in losing in that one than he did last night when he fought some Australian dude. It's the Australian guy. Apparently, the Australian guy had only been boxing for 5 years. 5 years, and he was giving Hrgović the business. Now, shout out to Hrgović for getting the win and locking it in the end, getting the stoppage. But I mean, he's not looking like the monster some people were trying to paint him out to be early on. Want to give a shout out to Earl Stevens for his contribution to Super Chat. Shout out to Earl. And Earl says, I'm doing the rounds on YouTube. Most people pick Valdez to win. It shows you that these channels know they're boxing, but what they don't know is fighting. Yeah, Earl brought that up too on Rapids last night. And I perused the Ring TV picks as well because I'd missed it during fight week. I didn't even check it out. So I checked it out afterwards. And yeah, wouldn't you know it, most people picked Valdez on that one too. So the Las Vegas odds makers, the people on the Ring TV experts pick, they all went with Valdez. And I can't blame them. They saw the Wilson fight. They saw him stunning and dropping Navarrete, and they probably thought, well, Valdez can do the same thing because he's got a heck of a left hook. But if you think about it, and again, this just goes back to the Spence Crawford thing. You don't judge fights. You can't examine fights without looking at the context. These fights don't happen in a vacuum. As much as boxing fans on YouTube want to try to, excuses, you're making excuses. It is what it is. Berchelt wasn't himself, and he was a different style too when he was fighting Valdez. And on top of that, Valdez tenderized him before the finish. So it's not like it's not like he was gonna pull this win out of nowhere with one left hook, especially since he wasn't doing damage to Navarrete the same way he was doing to Berchelt. It was just a different dynamic, and you saw it as after the 5th round. You sort of got the feeling, yeah, this ain't gonna get better for what's his name, for Navarrete. Excuse me, for Valdez. What am I talking about here? I'm getting distracted. You guys, anything else you want to say before we call it a day?
Since I jumped in late, if I can just jump in and say congratulations to Navarrete for his big win. I'm not ready to crown him as a Hall of Famer yet, but this is definitely something to put on his resume towards the fact that he's could possibly become one day if he stays on this kind of a track. Congratulations Valdez for putting up a hell of an effort and coming short. And I think the writing's on the wall, the fact that you've overachieved in your career, I mean, as a compliment. And I'm not saying Derek James is an overrated trainer, but I think he's being exposed to not being an MMA steward that can take just about anybody and turn them into a champion.
Yeah, listen, the thing about Joshua is...
I think he's overrated.
Well, listen, Joshua, you got to give him... He said a lot of things after the fight. And a lot of it seemed like he was trying to make up for the preceding 6 rounds before the knockout that were just boring. But he did make one good point. He said, when people look back at my career, they'll see a guy who fought everybody. And that's true. I mean, he fought everybody. Andy Ruiz, Pulev, Klitschko, Dylan White, Parker, Usyk. And now he's going to be fighting Wilder. I mean, you can't take that away from him. And look, his last 2 performances have been May. That means subpar. But all he needs is one fight. Well, that's all we remember. And Navarrete was in the same boat. People were saying he sucks, blah, 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 overrated. He's going to get schooled by a guy who knows what he's doing after the Wilson fight. And then what happens? Now all we remember is the last fight against Valdez. So it's the same thing with Joshua. All he needs is to put that one. He could have gotten that this Saturday if he would have. I think. Here's my question to you guys. Do you think he actually would have looked better against Dylan White last night?
I don't know. Maybe. Dillian White, I'm not always too high on him either. So yeah, depends. He's shorter than Helenius. I think the height gives Wilder. I mean, Joshua a little bit of a hard time. So again, that doesn't help because Wilder's 6'9". But I just gotta say, Helenius. I just want him to take those Norse fucking I don't know the correct name, but I can't stand that he wears that. He makes all Vikings look bad. He has all those Viking symbols on his shorts. Vikings don't go out with one fucking half a slap.
I mean, listen, the Vikings were essentially criminals. You know, they were just.
Well, of course they were, but at least they were tough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But maybe you want to have the toughness without the criminal element. That's all I'll say about that. But you're right, man. I mean, Helenius. By the way, though, some people are saying, well, he took the fight last notice. He'd fought 1 week earlier in a dungeon, I think, some sort of S&M dungeon. Does he have an excuse to say, hey, listen, does he have an excuse to at least say, hey, I did my best? Can he say that or?
Who, Joshua?
No, Helenius.
No. Yeah, he can say it, but it doesn't mean you don't laugh at him.
Laugh at him. Point and laugh at him, Jimmy. You're a big meanie. That's what you are. No, but yeah, listen, Joshua.
Come on, dude. He was there for a paycheck. You know what I mean? Oh, I'll take it. How much?
Yeah, you're right.
He was just waiting for Joshua to finally hit him with a fucking shot he could go out. He was probably laying about fucking time, asshole. You know what I mean?
Listen,
like, took you that long to finally catch me with a right that looks, good enough that I could just not get up from.
One good performance from Joshua and all will be forgiven, but he needs to get this Vladimir Klitschko mentality out of his head. You're not Vladimir Klitschko, man. You're a guy who uses his size, throws combos, intimidates people. We've
been saying that forever about him, right? He's always, we gave him everybody gave him kind of a break. Well, it was, it was a boring fight, yes, but it was only because he had, at the Ruiz, on the comeback after he got knocked out. It was because, we expected him to be boring. But if you look at all of them, seriously, when's the last time this dude's been in an exciting fight that he won? Like, Takam was boring as all outdoors. The fucking kid when he fought that kid from New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph, whatever his name is. Oh, Christ.
Parker, that was one of the most. Yeah, that was one of the most.
I mean, all his fights. Yeah, all of them, Lou. Like, you go past, it's like there's more of a sample size now. It's like it's the exciting fights is the abnormal ones with this guy. I mean, just go through Boxrec. Most of them are boring.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, the Franklin fight. I asked earlier how he would have done against Dylan White. He had a similar type guy in Franklin earlier this year, and that was boring too. So. You're right, man. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here and not criticize him too much because it seems like it's the popular thing to do to just shit on the guy. But you're right, man. I mean, the performances speak for themselves once you put it into context.
Right.
Well, like you said, BDA, it's also context. If you look at everything that goes on around it, so we say that Vladimir Klitschko was boring, maybe, but look at his resume. He had 60-something fights. And each time on the way up till he established himself as an actual champion and a full-fledged belt holder, not because the WBO was still like a contender belt at the time. If there was a prospect, especially out of America, that was say, hey, this could be the next great guy, he fought him and won. You name it. It didn't matter whether it was the guy that played George Foreman in the Ali movie, I can't remember his name right now, or Jameel McCline or Chris Bird or whoever it was. He beat all of them as fellow prospects on the way up. And that hasn't been duplicated since him. Nobody else has done that. And so the resume, so this is boring and that's boring, but he had already proven himself. Joshua got his, because of the gold medal and being from London, got his shot a little bit earlier and didn't have to go through as many people. Therefore, he wasn't as hard tested. And so now his hard testing is coming in his 30s in the latter part of his career. And he's passing some of them because he's not losing all of his fights, but he's not passing them in something that we're used to seeing because he's passing them passively or passive aggressive, for lack of a better term, and not an impressive style. And it's more like he's trying to protect himself from another loss than risking to be great.
That's a good way of putting it right there. Shout out to Vladdy V for his contribution with the super chat. He says that Viking song that Helenius came out almost fooled me into thinking he was earned to fight. Good show, BDA. Yeah, I mean that's reminds me a little bit of like when Marco Antonio Rubio came out against Golovkin and he's got the Mexican music and you think they're gonna throw down Mexican style, both of them, and then he gets hit on the forehead and he acts like he got hit behind the head and just barely it was less than 2 rounds of action. So kind of the same thing, man. Yeah, maybe Jimmy's right though. Take away those Viking stripes. He hasn't earned them.
Terrible that he has them on. And I just gotta say real quick, right? We've all been waiting since it's been 6 years since this guy, because it was that Vladimir Klitschko fight. And again, Klitschko was 41 years old, but still it was an exciting fight. They both dusted themselves up the canvas. It made for an exciting fight. Check out the following fights. Carlos Takam, that was horrible. Joseph Parker followed that, terrible. He had all kinds of holes against Povetkin, even though he won in a 7th round knockout, but it looked shitty in there. The following fight is when he lost to Andy Ruiz. Then it was that god-numbing, boring fight in a rematch, right? And then the Pulev fight,
he looked good in the
there was
Pulev.
holes in that, right? It wasn't nothing exciting. Then he lost 2 times to Usyk, and then another boring one with Franklin, and another fucking sus one last night. So seriously, I haven't been super impressed with this dude since fucking October of 2017. He's like going into Danny Garcia type fucking numbers.
You know what, man? That's a great way of putting it right there. I'm starting to get convinced, and maybe I'm falling for the propaganda. I'm trying to give him too much credit. Shout out to the Boxing Prophet, above all Boxing Prophets, for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, Helenius didn't have a proper training camp for AJ. See, that's what I was trying to bring up about how he was fighting in a dungeon, in a BDSM dungeon last week. Now all of a sudden he's fighting Anthony Joshua, and he still fucking gave him the business. I'm telling you, Anthony Joshua needs to fight differently. He needs to get the Vladimir Klitschko thing out of his head. But like Jimmy said, we're venturing into Danny Garcia, Zab Judah territory where every fight we keep saying, well, if he does this, that guy's 33. He's going to be 34 on October. So I think it's safe to say that this old cat can't change his stripes. This leopard can't change his stripes anymore. Anyway, listen, fellas, excuse me, we got to go.
Exactly.
It's been almost 3 hours. We got to keep them shorter, these episodes. But thanks again to everybody that donated the super chat. Oh, hold on a second. Another super chat incoming here from...
What, YouTube complaint?
No, YouTube does not complain. Even if they did, what are they going to do about it? I want them to do something about it. Shout out to the Boxing Prophets. He says, Helenius' last fight was the 5th of August, 2023. Yeah, there you go. He fought a week ago against some guy who I think that guy used to work in that dungeon. He works there during Bear Night on Saturdays. That's what he does. And they just picked him up and said, hey, you want to fight this dude? Yeah, sure, why not? And now Helenius was in the same boat last night. He was the go-to guy. But hey, listen, at least Joshua got some rounds in. That's what he needs to do in an age where fighters are too inactive and at best they fight twice a year. At least he got some rounds in. And like I said, all he has to do is look good in the next one and all will be forgiven for the boxing fans. But again, it's doubtful if he can do even that. So we'll see. That being said, fellas, we do have to go. I want to give a big shout out to Jimmy, a.k.a. the Jim Marino, Gonzalo, a.k.a. the Guns, and Chief, a.k.a. Master Chief. And the Bucho was here earlier as well. Shout out to King Bucho. Like I said, everybody that called in, everybody that donated the super chat, everybody in the chat. Who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Garcia, Handsome Mechanic, Never Sobers in there. Shout out to Never Sobers. Beyonce, Twerk Squad, Wilderette, Way Weary, Juan Rodarte, Iceman, Team Batman Boxing, That Knockout Ned, That Gucci Berserk, Jose Pereira, Handsome Mechanic.
Hit the likes on the way out, though.
Yeah, hit the like on the way out. Please, please, please. Pretty please with sugar on top.
Also, check out the shorts Bucho and Mr. BDA putting out some excellent shorts, guys. Seriously, so go if you haven't, check them out. They've been putting out great content. I just wanted to put that out there. I should have put it out there earlier. I apologize.
Don't apologize, Jimmy. That's you remembered. I forgot. Shout out to check out the shorts. That's mostly Buchu who's doing the work on that. So shout out to him. Check them out. Mark T, Boxing Prophet, Super Sardonic, Triple JJJ, Todd. And if I forgot anybody else, because we gotta go, fellas. You guys know who you are. Shout out to you. Catch you on the next one, fellas. Take it easy. Thanks for watching.